Tension on deck.
Hey, good evening, Ron. How you doing today?
Doing well. Doing well. Looking forward to today's show. Special edition of the Executive Perspective. We're going to have on mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa in a few. He is out and about. He is on the campaign trail 20 hours a day. He found some
Amazing.
time to he's carving out time to sit down with the Executive Perspective. He'll be on in a few minutes. So how's everything going? See you still up in here in New York?
Yeah, what's with the weather up here? I wake up in the morning and it's 30 something degrees.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I had
cold.
the heat on last night for the first time.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's
So
crazy.
yeah,
Yep.
first thing. But yeah, before we get started, just want to bring in and acknowledge some sad news in the realm of the NYPD today. It came out the passing of um, Dr. Rabbi Dr. Alvin Cass, who is the chief chaplain of the NYPD, the first three-star chief chaplain over almost 6 decades in the NYPD, and a staple at any event that we've ever been at, promotions, graduations. Um, he always had a wit about him. He had a sense of humor. Uh, Always had his stories to tell during his invocations at the events, and he will be truly missed. A mentor to many, spiritual leader of the Shaman Society, and supporter of all. And I just want to read before we get your words, Rob. I just want to read part of Commissioner Tish's X post that she put out because it resonated with me because I could hear Rabbi Cass's words. She put in part, at every police academy graduation, Rabbi Cass offered his familiar blessing, a prayer that New York be a place where people of every race, religion, color, and creed can pursue their individual destinies, untrammeled, unafraid, and in obedience to thy will. So that was Rabbi Cass, and he will absolutely be missed.
Right. What a distinct voice, right? When you read those words, you can hear the way he would say it, and for the most part, right, we were all at parade rest, right? We would, and our head would be bowed as he would, say his invocation, and you would just hear that voice, and it was a calming voice, and what a true gentleman. Always a pleasure to deal with. Always there to support the police, right? 60 years of dedicated service to the members of the NYPD and the families of the members of the NYPD. A true staple. When you talk about 60 years, I mean, geez, I mean that's a long time, and he's known everybody, and he's done as much as he can for everybody. So, God bless him. I know he's up there in heaven with his God, and he'll be truly missed, truly missed.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, we want to welcome everybody in the chat today. Special shout out to retired Chief Mike Marino out in our chat today. So, how are you, Chief? Great to see you in the chat. Hope you enjoy the show. And yeah, so we're gonna have Curtis on in a few minutes, but there's a post that did come out, and it's related to the election. And one of the things that's been talked about, and we will talk to Curtis about this, is the selection of the police commissioner. And every one of the candidates at the last debate said that they would retain, if she would stay, they would retain Commissioner Tish.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if any of the candidates have actually spoken to her yet, but I guess I would ask what requirements does any of the candidates really look, for the police commissioner, and is she fulfilling all those needs to make sure that the department runs the way that it's supposed to? Now, with the other two, candidates, she has pushed back against bail reform and certain laws that have changed, some of which one of the candidates actually enacted, right? So, but they all claim they're going to keep her. So, I don't know. I don't necessarily trust, Cuomo and Mandami. I don't believe that. But if Curtis believes that she's a good candidate and believes that she can run the department, then she should continue. As long as she can, keep going in the direction forward that we know that Curtis wants to go in.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Mandami had said that he hasn't spoken to her about it.
No.
I don't know if Cuomo has spoken. I don't even know if Curtis has. I mean, we'll ask him when he comes on, and we'll see what it is. And you know, she hasn't tipped her hat at all.
No.
And that's one thing I have to say is one of the things that we talked about on the last episode, and we talk about throughout the platform, is how politics has consumed the NYPD. And obviously, through this last administration, how the administration, City Hall, has basically run the NYPD. And the mayor was the de facto police commissioner. I mean, the police commissioner always answers to the mayor. Obviously, it's an appointed position by the mayor. However, we always say the department runs so much better when the police commissioner, following the vision of the mayor, has the autonomy to actually run the department. And that has not been the case. And we've said it that she seems to have a little more flexibility and leeway to get things done. But obviously, you can tell it's still, Curtis Sliwa is the man behind the curtain. But she has stayed out of it. And his Katie Honan, who was one of the moderators on the last debate, which we thought was a very fair debate, and she's a reporter for the city. I've known Katie since I was the CO of the 111, I believe, maybe the 111 or the 110. I'm not sure. And she was a reporter for the Patch, which was an online when online news reporting was just starting out. But let's take a listen to what Commissioner Tisch says as she's coming out of City Hall today. It was today or yesterday.
I don't know if you've spoken to
Katie, I love you, but I'm not talking to you about this now.
Would you accept to keep your job if it was offered to you by any of the mayoral winners?
Such great pain to ignore you. You know how I feel about it.
So you wouldn't say yes or no? You're not ready to commit to an answer?
Katie, the police commissioner should not appear to be involved or be directly involved in electoral politics. That's been my stance from the beginning of this election, and we have a whole nother week to go.
What do you think of Mr. Mamdani's Department of Community Safety proposal?
Have a good day.
Have you spoken to all the candidates? The top three, I mean?
Wait, you missed the last part. Can you keep playing what she said?
I cut it out. I know you're talking. She says, "Oh, she gets the third row."
Yeah, why is she sitting in the third row?
Yeah, it's pretty funny, right?
Yeah.
But, and just off for 1 second. All right, I gotta jump off the camera for 1 second.
Okay. Yeah. So we don't know whether or not Jessica's going to take the position, or because we also know that her family, they donated almost $1 million to Mario Cuomo. So it's kind of odd that, she in fact would maintain a position as police commissioner with either one of the other two candidates. But, it's quite possible she stayed out of donating, which I don't believe she probably can. But family members did donate up to $1 million to Cuomo's fund. And, she's a pretty advocate against all the things that Cuomo has implemented. So I'm kind of surprised that, that she would even say that she would, I'm surprised that she hasn't said I wouldn't accept a position from one of these candidates, So, but we all know, like politics plays an immense role. But usually, here's the difference. Usually, the police commissioner is able to absorb the political impacts and then push down policy and procedure in a way that it sells to the membership. And we know that having Eric Adams as the mayor, that's the problem, right? He was a captain in the NYPD. What did he probably want to do? He probably wanted to get promoted, and his dream was probably to become the police commissioner. So when he was elected mayor, what's the first thing he wanted to do? He wanted to become the police commissioner. So that's why he acted as the police commissioner, and kind of he lost how many people left, right? 4 police commissioners, I believe.
Right.
So
yeah, sorry about that. I wanted to answer the phone. It was an unknown number. I wanted to make sure it wasn't his staff.
I heard it was the IRS. So
I'm still waiting for my rebate check. I don't know. I didn't get
all
one.
right. Yeah, well, maybe that's it.
But Kathy Holtel, she's not sending me a check?
She's supposed to, isn't she?
That's what they
Yeah.
said. That's what everybody's saying, right?
Yeah. All taxpayers, they said.
Oh, maybe I didn't pay my taxes. No,
Maybe
I
don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree that she needs to stay out of it. Whether her, we know her family has been very, involved in politics and everything else. So, but she's kept herself out of the political arena. She hasn't taken but $1, the $1 a year salary.
Yeah.
While she's working. So she's doing it, I believe, because she truly believes in it, doing it for the betterment of the city.
You would hope, right? You would hope.
I don't know. She hasn't thrown a hat in any political arena. What her future is and what her future holds, I don't know. But I haven't. She's remained apolitical, which is what I believe. Someone in law enforcement should be. I mean, even when she was the sanitation commissioner, she puts everything she has into it. I'll give her that. Whether we agree or disagree with decisions that she's made, disciplinary wise and whatnot, certain selections. Again, I'm gonna go back to coming out of, City Hall, and and that's not really her. That really wasn't her sale,
Right.
So.
No, I mean, I know with when she was in charge of the Information Technology Bureau, she put everything into it, I mean, getting the smartphones, getting everything online. I mean, it did a good job there.
Well, after she made the mistake of buying the wrong phone the first time.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a honest mistake.
Listen, everybody makes mistakes, and it was a huge deal to actually even just get that first step in.
Yeah,
I don't hold that against her.
No. I mean, I'm not going to lie. When we went to the all-ins, right, where every executive from the NYPD was brought to the new police academy, we'd have to listen to certain presentations. Hers was not the most riveting, but it was, I guess it was somewhat informative. So, but yeah, I mean, the fact that she's doing it, for basically free, right? I mean, that's commendable. I mean, but then again, she doesn't need the money, right? So
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I just want to address Operation Breadbaskets, telling us to ask him about reinstating 50A, and I know from listening to him and speaking with him that he's a proponent of putting 50A back in to place where we have the privacy, but that's at a state level. That's not something that the mayor can actually do.
Yeah, I think he said he would push for it and request it, but you're right. It's gonna take a little bit. But he also did mention, Curtis mentioned, that he himself would not take qualified immunity, and he said that even Jamani Williams and everybody else the city council shouldn't take qualified immunity when the police officers don't have it. So, I mean, that's pretty commendable, putting himself ahead of everybody else and, you know, really standing in front. That's what a true leader does, right? You don't lead from behind. You don't lead from your office. You stand in front, and that's a true leader right there.
Yeah. Let me just answer. He's about 10 minutes out.
Okay.
But yeah, no, and it is a true leader because, like you said, you know, I wasn't a military guy, but you know what they say, you know, is, you know, the leaders, you know, there's never any rank, you know, on the chow line, right? That you always you let your subordinates eat first.
I got a funny story for that one, but
yeah, but and he's taking that type of a position where, hey, if my rank and file don't have it, I'm not going to have it.
Yeah.
You know, and whether even that's, you know, a thing or not, you know, I don't know if you could waive it, you know, because, you know, listen, in the positions, like, listen, the only lawsuit, you go on my 58, the only lawsuit you see is when I was the CO of a command. And the only reason I was named in the lawsuit is because I was the CO of the command. As the mayor of the city of New York, you're going to be pulled into 1 million lawsuits just being named as the
I know.
the mayor.
I was pulled in I didn't even, it was a EDP job, mostly disturbed person job, and we made entry into the apartment because people told us there was somebody who was emotionally disturbed inside. I didn't even make it into the apartment. Like, I stayed outside in the hallway and I was named in the lawsuit. So I was like, how did that happen? I didn't even go in, but that was exonerated anyway. But my quick story with the chow line is we're up at Camp Smith up in I think is it Poughkeepsie? It's right up upstate New York. And
sure.
we're doing training. It's a military base. We're doing training. And I'm up there with Vinny Giordano. And they're serving food, right? They have a buffet or whatever. So now they're feeding everybody. And Vinny starts walking in and everybody grabs him by the collar, goes, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" You gotta let the men and women eat first. You know, the boots on the ground eat first. Then if there's enough, then the supervisors. That's what you have to do. We got to put your men and women, you know, first, and that's what Curtis does. You know.
Yeah, I always did that too. And you always, whenever you're in an event, the community affairs are like, "Oh, let me go get you a plate, boss. Let me go get you a plate, boss." I'm like, "No, let everybody eat first. Everybody eat first. I'll mingle. I'll do my thing. Unless I had to run out and I was hungry, then maybe I might grab a little something real quick in the corner.
Get a plate to go, right? Yeah. I think Mike Freed is up by Peekskill. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right. I see that Curtis has joined the studio, so we'll bring him right up to the stage right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our honor and privilege to introduce, hopefully, the next mayor of the city of New York, the Honorable Curtis Sliwa.
There he is. Curtis.
Thank you. Now, guys, I got stuck in the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. Do we think that was due to the efforts of the Prince of Darkness himself, Andrew Cuomo?
Definitely, Curtis.
Now we have a tunnel gate coming.
Well, let's just say he still has the contacts from when he fled Albany as the governor, fearing impeachment by his own Democrats. Who knows? We were stuck there for a good 20, 25 minutes. I was prepared to bail out and walk the tunnel and then communicate with you guys.
Wow.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
We know how busy you are, especially here in the final push. 6 days to election day. 5 if you include the rest of today till 8 o'clock. 5 days of early voting left. So we know how important it is, and we know how important your time is. We know you're out there 20 hours a day, pounding the streets. Cuomo's out there 20 minutes a day. You know, and I don't know where Mandami is, but you know, we really appreciate you carving out the time to get on our show. And you know, listen, you know that we've endorsed you and that we believe that you are the solution. You are the answer that New York City needs to turn New York City around. We feel that you are the only one that is putting forth a true platform that's doable, not some pie in the sky thing that half the things on the platform can't even be done at the mayoral level. And then the other person, his platform is I'm not Mamdani and I need Curtis's votes to win.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really what it's come down to.
Yeah.
And the other day I had the opportunity to sit down with uniformed services, minus the PBA, all the uniformed services, police, it was probation, correction, sanitation. And remember, they had cast their lot with Eric Adams, which I told him he's going to be one and done. He's just waiting for the prices right. Bob Barker's Price is Right, and he got it, and he's out. So
Yeah.
I had a really good discussion with the men and women representing uniformed services, and it was clear that they agreed with me on every point. Now, the Prince of Darkness had been with them the hour before, Andrew Cuomo. And so I said, well, let me tick off just 6 of the many reasons you shouldn't even consider him. The fact that in 8 years as governor, his parole board paroled 43 cop killers.
Right.
And he never once called the families of the slain cops to explain it. And as I told him, I said, look, you all knew the better, Cuomo Mario. 12 years as governor, his parole board never paroled one cop killer. I said also, you had 50A, which basically opened up the jacket of every cop who serves or every cop who did serve, especially undercover officers, so that those individuals who wanted to expose them to make their life miserable and to basically file charges against them on a regular basis, spurless charges, would have the right to do so. Tier 6, closing Rikers Island, no cash bail, and the one that was very personal for me that you heard me speak about at length on the debate stage, the second debate, raise the age. When I turned to Andrew Cuomo, I said, you are the architect of Raise the Age, Zoran Mandami, the apprentice. My oldest son, Anthony, was the victim of a vicious juvenile gang attack that could have impaired him, could have killed him. And instead of them being charged and taken to criminal court, they went to family court where they got a slap on the wrist and they were released and they went back out and they were hanging out. And my son has to look at them each and every day. I said, for me, it's personal, but this is happening throughout our city every day. And they didn't even show any signs of engagement. Like, I'm sorry what happened to Anthony. Nothing.
No.
Because they know their policies are pro-criminal, pro-predator, and does nothing for the victims. And so that's why clearly people have a choice now. They have the 2 Democrats who want to do everything to make the crime crisis worse so that we have to lock up now everything, not just the toothpaste instead of the criminals. Yeah. But they've got a law and order candidate. And as I explained to them, without mentioning Rudy Giuliani, because I knew, boy, I would be stirring up a beehive because the cops would have said, he turned us heroes to zeros. He wouldn't give us a pay increase. I've had conversations with Rudy, my best supporter in this election, about that for years. And I didn't even bring that up because we would have been there an extra hour as they would have been grumbling and mumbling about Rudy. But he is the law and order mayor. And if people have a difficult time trying to fathom who Curtis Sliwa is, just think of the apprentice to Rudy Giuliani. I was with him in his first campaign that he lost to Dinkins, with him in his second campaign, visited him regularly at City Hall, watched how he saved the city and got us back on track by cracking down on crime, zero tolerance. And then I was with him for years at WABC, where we shared the same studio. And he imparted tremendous knowledge to me about how the city runs, how it operates, what you can do and what you can't do. So don't knock yourself out on this, Curtis. It'll take you a month of Sundays, but this is where you can make changes rapidly and immediately. The people will feel the effects, see the effects, and then they will believe that you have the ability to do what I did. And that was the best advice that I've received in this entire election process.
Yeah, no, and Curtis, as a police officer under Rudy Giuliani and taking the handcuffs off us and allowing us to do it. When I first came on the job, they told me you can't make any street narcotics arrests. You see people pitching and selling drugs right in front of you, you're supposed to drive right by. And to me, it was like, what? There's a crime. They're selling drugs. I can't do that. No, that's the policy. And then when Rudy Giuliani came in and changed everything around and empowered us, I guarantee when you're and I know you will be the mayor, when you're the mayor and you turn that around, you're going to see the police department come together, and they're going to, the vision that you instill in them, they're going to follow you. That you're a great leader, and they're going to follow you, wherever you take them. And I know you'll take them on the right path to bring the city back to the way it should have been. The way that, I worked for 35 years in the NYPD, the way I was so proud. And then as it got to the end, you see it just all is starting to crumble down again because the way the politics were running the city. It was horrifying.
Yeah.
So
And
I
then
know.
remember, in both debates, I took the time to try to explain to the many hundreds of thousands watching why it'll be impossible to retain and recruit new police officers because they've been stripped of qualified immunity, which is a very difficult term to understand for the average citizen. So I broke it down. I said, imagine all the civil servants, including governors, mayors, everyone who's in government is protected with an insurance policy we pay for, the taxpayers. And that's fair. The one group that had that stripped away were the police by the city council in 2021. Eric Adams didn't say anything. And so now police officers have to think 9 times before they get involved, knowing that they can personally be sued, lose what little equity they have, their home, what few savings they may have. And by explaining it twice at length in both debates, I think it started to resonate, because I had people coming up to me in the subways where I'm every day campaigning, the other two are not, and in the streets saying, Curtis, I never realized that the cops are not insured like everybody else in city government. And I went on to explain that at length, and I think I went a long way into showing people it's not about just hiring people, it's about letting them function as police. And you and I both know, in my lifetime, 2/3 of the police recruits who ever took the test generally were referred by family and friends who had served in the Department of Uniformed Services. I'm finding that is happening at a less and less rate, because men and women who have served have said, look, you're not insured. You'd be crazy to take the test to become a police officer and then basically lose everything that you've gained in life simply because you decided to physically intervene and help somebody in distress.
Right.
Yeah, Curtis, I agree with you that qualified immunity has a lot to do with partly to do with the recruitment crisis. But I think it's so much more. It's a lack of integrity in the job, in the upper echelon of the job, and in City Hall itself, and people seeing that the job, is like we used to say, on the level, right? The job's never been on the level, quote unquote, but there was integrity in the job, and we lost a lot of that. And when you look at the platforms, and people have to have confidence in the leadership in City Hall, and then in the leadership in the NYPD, which is appointed by the mayor, the upper echelon, right? So one of the things that, you said, people that didn't really know Curtis Sliwa or have to get to know Curtis Sliwa, is when you watch Curtis Sliwa, and you killed it in both debates. We feel you won both debates when you weren't being drowned out by them dropping each other's names so they get the automatic reply, that you had substance and they had really nothing to put forward. And the police officers don't feel confident in the leadership. And when you look at the platform of the Department of Community Safety for Mondami, and you just look at the history of Andrew Cuomo and all of his, he's the godfather of defund the police, right? Or, well, not the godfather of defund the police, but of all the reforms, right? You look at your platform, you actually have a platform that will bring that confidence back.
Yeah. And by the way, that's why Rudy Giuliani so enthusiastically endorsed me over a month ago, and George Pataki. These are the two best elected officials we've had in my lifetime. The best Governor Pataki, the best mayor, without a doubt, Rudy Giuliani. So you say these are men of honor. These are men who served the city, not just in the troubled times of which they inherited, obviously, with Rudy from Dinkins, 2,000 murders a year, 10,000 unsolved shootings, and Pataki, a crime crisis with Mario Cuomo, who was like the Hamlet on the Hudson, trying to figure out, should I build a prison? Should I not build a prison? Should I incarcerate? Should I not incarcerate? He could never make up his mind. But there was then stability. Crime went down. Quality of life improved. No chaos, no corruption. We can have that again. If people go out and elect me, which is Rudy Giuliani 2.0, and then next year I help Elise Stefanik to take out Kathy Hochul, and you know how good Elise Stefanik is. It's like 1993, 1994 all over again. We can get this state and city back on track, stem the flow of the evacuation, which is taking place long before the fear of Zoran Mondami took place, and get people to conceptually say, yeah, we're going to improve. We're not going to move, because we've got a mayor who's got our back, and we've got a governor who's got our back, who will fight the socialists and will back the blue. And that's so incredibly important. If you don't back the blue, you end up with anarchy and chaos. And then you see the massive migration of police officers who are taking either early retirement, they're being recruited away on a regular basis, or the newer potential recruits are just saying it's just not worth joining this uniformed service, the police or corrections or fire or sanitation, or all the groupings that people would look forward to joining to take the test, because it's in a city that is in despair, that is crawling into the belly of the beast. And I'm the one who can stop that. There's nobody else running in this election who can even approach that.
You're muted.
I followed your plan and everything. I mean, I totally agree with you, Curtis. Your plan is great, and like Ron had said earlier during the debate, they didn't have answers. They gave smiles. Mondami smiled. Cuomo gave his history, and like you clearly said, yeah, your checkered history. It was hilarious. And then, but when you answered to the. I watched you. You're focused, and you spoke to the people, and you came everything answered. Like down to everything that you had, and reading your plans, everything is perfect. So I mean, clearly you understand the vision, and you're moving forward. Just a quick question. I know you were on Nate Friedman, and you spoke to him, and just a quick talk about them asking you to drop out, which it blows my mind as a registered Republican to ask a Republican when you know that any Democrat, city, state, federal, would never ever drop out for a Republican. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, how do you feel about them asking you all the time? I mean, to me, it's ludicrous, but I just want to, get your thought on that.
Well, it's the dropout game, and Friedman, all he was doing was lip syncing what all the billionaires have said, drop out, because they want to control who becomes the next mayor, and they've done a horrible job so far, running back and forth, first to Cuomo, then to Adams, back to Cuomo. They give me vertigo. The influencers, the insiders, it comes down to a very simple principle, no matter what your politics. We were taught in an early age, one person, one vote. Let the people decide. They go to the voting booth, they cast their ballot. I trust the people. I don't trust the billionaires, the insiders, the influencers, because Their motivations are different than average working class people. I come from a working class family. Those are my roots. I will never forget the people who grew up with my mother and father and produced children like myself who are of the same ilk. We are sons and daughters of the soil. We are not billionaires. We were not born on third base like Andrew Cuomo. We had to go out and work and earn everything that we were able to acquire. And that's why I'm the best person to prevent Zoran Mandami and the Zoranistas from destroying all of that. Because Andrew Cuomo, he's the reason there is a Zoran Mandami along with Eric Adams. Let's be honest. A year ago, did anybody know who Zoran Mandami was? Only his neighbors knew for sure. The failure of Eric Adams as a corrupt mayor and the flight of Andrew Cuomo as a disgraced governor sort of created this pathway for Zoran Mandami, who, by the way, is very affable. He's a smooth operator like the Sade song back in '84. And with Zoran, every time he smiles, he's a Pinocchio. It's not his nose that gets bigger. His smile gets bigger. That's how you know the bigness of his lie.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
All right. So, Curtis, a big part of your public safety platform is the safety and transit system, and that's obviously near and dear to your heart. With going back from day one, with the Guardian Angels, and that goes hand in hand with something that you've said day one when you walk through the door. You're going to reinstate the homeless outreach unit, and they're going to work hand in hand with mental health professionals. And your opponent, he wants to use mental health professionals to respond to 911 calls, where they're not going to. It's not going to work out. So, tell us how that's going to come into play, and why that's so important.
Well, Zoran Mandami was using the program in Eugene, Oregon, as an example. Now, you go to Eugene, Oregon to buy Nikes. You don't go to Eugene, Oregon to learn about programs that are going to help a city like New York. Then he talked about Columbus, Ohio. I've been to both those cities many times. They have nothing there comparable to what we deal with here in New York City. It's not like he was saying, oh, I saw this program in Boston or Washington, D.C. or Chicago. No. He talked about small cities with much smaller problems, and all we have to do, everything's been done before. I think most of you gentlemen realize that. All we have to do is resurrect, revive. This homeless outreach unit was outstanding. Men and women who were police officers who wanted to take care of the homeless and the emotionally disturbed. They knew all the directors of the shelters. They knew the clients. They knew the security. They knew the community leaders. They could go in and out and resolve problems and keep the peace. Now, the Department of Homeless Services has a rule that police officers are not permitted to go into any of the over 300 shelters unless there's an emergency 911 call. And police officers can't even go in and use the facilities. They're being told by the directors, well, according to the Department of Homeless Services, the mere sighting of a police officer in a uniform or undercover will cause post-traumatic shock syndrome to our clients. And this is all under Eric Adams, the supposed guy who for 22 years put on a bulletproof vest, served in the NYPD in transit. In the meantime, he has allowed this to exist. This is a slap in the face. I'll never forget outside the Roosevelt Hotel when they were processing thousands a day that were coming in across the border, and they all wanted to come to New York City because the benefits here were so much better. There were two police officers outside patrolling around the Roosevelt Hotel. I said, are you ever permitted to go inside? They said, no, absolutely not. I said, you kidding? No, it has to be a 911 call. We have to stay out. I'm saying we won't even let the police go in. We won't even let our own homeless go in and spend the night, just showering up and maybe getting their personal items together. We spent $7 billion on people we didn't even know. Many of them gang members, drug dealers, narco terrorists, sex traffickers. We didn't even think twice about that. So I'm saying we go back to the basics. The shelters have to be made safe, or we're never going to get the homeless people in the streets and the subways and the parks to want to venture into them. And we have to take the emotionally disturbed and get them into either state or municipal mental health care hospitals. When Andrew Cuomo was governor, when he came into office, there were 40,000 mental health beds in the state system. By the time he fled, fearing impeachment, to the Hamptons with his billionaire friends, we were down at 4,000, 36,000 emotionally disturbed people. They didn't all die. Some of them are still in the streets and subways and parks, because I have conversations, as you've seen. I've developed a pretty friendly relationship with quite a few of them. And they tell me, yeah, I was discharged. I was told no longer to come back to Creedmoor for my therapy or my medication as part of budget cuts. And then they end up roaming the streets. They're a danger to themselves and everyone else. The homeless outreach unit was the best. Day one, January 1st, 2026, I get sworn into office. We put it back into effect. There's a borough command in each borough. The top, there was about 225 cops with the medical nurses and the mental health care trained personnel accompanying them. This was all done before. But it was when they removed $1 billion from the budget, Bill de Blasio. And remember, they danced the tarantella in city council, all the city council people. They were so happy that they rendered the police impotent. That's when they destroyed that great program, and I will revive it on day one.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, there was jobs I would go on with the homeless, and they wouldn't even want to talk to me. They say, "Hey, get me from somebody from the homeless outreach. I've dealt with them. I know them. They know what I got to do. They have their history." You know, and then there was a shelter on Franklin Avenue in the 4-2 precinct. I would say, I could take you there. He goes, I don't want to go there. That's where I get robbed. They steal all my stuff. I go to sleep. I could get stabbed. I'm not going there. So absolutely, 100%. I totally agree with you. If we improve the shelters and have a place for the homeless to go, they'll go. They're willing to do it, but they want to be safe, like you said. And with emotionally disturbed people, I've dealt with that with an emergency service unit for 20 years in the special operation division. Yeah, we need a place to take these people, because that's a rotating door also. They'll bring them in, and the next thing you know, they're out and they're back on the streets. So I totally agree with you. And I think you're number one, right on target with that. The security of these homeless shelters is paramount,
And
well, it's become part of the industrial complex of nonprofits, these shelters. They hire their own family members. They subcontract services from their own family members and friends. It's all incestuous. There's billions of dollars tied up in this that never gets to actually taking care of the homeless and emotionally disturbed. They are entitled to dignity and privacy. Absolutely. I would revive the old SRO hotels with security and therapy on the grounds, because the shelters kick them out at 7 a.m. and they have to return by 10 in order to get the same bed. Now, all day long, they're not taking their medication. They're not getting therapy. They're roaming the streets. They're getting into trouble. They're a danger to themselves, everyone else. We already have them in a building. Why aren't we giving them additional services while they're in the building? No, we kick them out at 7 a.m. and they must return by 10. That means for 15 hours a day, they're roaming around. And they're going to get into trouble and create trouble in whatever neighborhoods those shelters are being put in, because no neighborhood wants shelters. No neighborhood wants shelters because they're so poorly run.
Yeah, and it's a sad state when we used to encounter homeless and, like Rob said, offer them a shelter, and they say, I'd rather be arrested. It's safer in the Tombs or to go to Rikers than it is to go to one of these shelters. And to another point is, the way you're able to speak on this, unscripted, as always, just is a testament to the fact that you're the only candidate that's out on the street talking to the actual people of the city of New York. You will absolutely be the people's mayor, as we said. And nobody else, who else would be holding a press conference and a homeless individual interrupts and doesn't get tackled out of the way by a police security detail, but yet gets invited in, gets spoken to like a human being, and you know the press conference I'm talking about, and
Yep.
then invited to stand with you at the podium while you continue. God bless you.
Well, look, I was taught early on by my father, a merchant seaman of 50 years. When he would be home 4 months of the year, he shipped out 8 months. He'd go to the Bowery. That's where the flop houses were in the 60s. And many of the men that he sailed with, unfortunately, ended up there because of alcohol, chemical problems, emotional problems. Some of them because they would come back from being out at sea and their wife and kids were no longer there. They had left with another man. You know how traumatic that is? And then they would end up crawling into a bottle. So my dad would sit down with them, some of them wallowing in their own defecation and urine, have a normal conversation. I'd be sitting there. I thought my dad was out of his mind. And then I'd listen to these men, and you could tell their heart was broken. They were lost. They were broken men. And there were some broken women along the way. And my dad looked at me in the eyes and he said, Curtis, there by the grace of God goes you. You never make fun of these people.
Mhm.
Don't ever think you're better than these people. That could have been me. Maybe one day I came back after 8 months, and let's say, we know your mom wouldn't do it, but let's say if your mom had picked all of you up and left with another man for a different life, and I never knew anything about it, you better believe I would have been so broken. I would have been so torn up. I could have ended up crawling into a bottle and being in a flop house here, having to pray for my soup at the Salvation Army location. And boy, did that resonate with me. My own father, strongest man I ever knew, saying that would have broken him too. That's why you got to listen. Politicians are too busy talking. Listen to the people, and you will feel the heartbeat of the city that maybe you've been oblivious to, or maybe you've ignored, and they'll sort of bring you to what everybody is concerned about. And then you realize, wow, I really got to buckle down. I got to deal with this problem, because this is a problem now I've heard from 5, 6, 7 people that either I wasn't aware of it, I wasn't focused on it, I wasn't paying attention to it, but it's resonating. So I got to make it my business to try to figure it out and straighten it out. That's what an elected official should do. I think elected officials are too busy thinking about the next office. Everybody who gets elected mayor, what's the first thing that's said? Oh, they'll eventually be running for president. What always happens? They crash and burn. I'll know. I get elected mayor, it's the end of the road. I'll serve as mayor. You'll never go anywhere after that. Never, because if you're doing a good job, you make a lot of enemies. A lot of enemies.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you have to treat everybody like they're human beings. Just like when we make an arrest, like it was always after the cuffs are on, you're a gentleman or a lady to that person. That's it. You know, I didn't tell you to commit the crime, but I caught you doing it, so I'm going to treat you. You know, we used to buy them sodas or coffee, whatever, and we treated them because we're not the judge and jury. And I agree 100%. The same thing goes for the homeless and EDPs. You got to treat them as if they're family. If you treat them as family, then you'll respect them. And now just to transition with the family of the NYPD, a lot of officers have concern with the amount of overtime that they're forced to do. Some of them, one officer that John and Eric had on ended up retiring with 3 years on because he couldn't take it anymore. He was literally going to work every day and being told he has to stay, coming in on his days off. There's a 35-hour cap they would have, so they would force things. And I know you spoke a little bit about it, and you've spoken to some officers. What's your feeling on that as the quality of life for members of the service?
I've had a number of guardian angels go on and take the test and qualify as police officers. The younger they are, if they don't have a family yet, they're hungry for overtime. Generally, not always the case, but generally. Mm-hmm. But once they have a family, boy, that can ruin your domestic life. Mm-hmm. And if it's forced overtime, the problems that it causes at home, your wife or your husband, the person you're living with, the children, maybe you're responsible for grandchildren, any number of things, and you can't be there. And oh boy, the tension because of forced overtime. Hey, if you hired enough cops and you were able to get them on the force and train them correctly, vet them, and then graduate them at College Point with protection that every other civil servant has, the qualified immunity, you wouldn't need to force overtime. They're forcing overtime because they only have 32,500 police officers. They're at a tremendous detriment. And that's how I would resolve that. But I got to jump out, guys. Got another event to go to. It's always great to talk to you guys because I got my boots on the ground when I talk to you. I'm talking to stand-up guys. And that's the biggest difference in the world. I'm dealing in the most corrupt business in the world, politics. The only thing you don't see are dead bodies. The only thing between organized crime, which I dealt with, which was trying to hurt me and kill me for years in politics, is generally you don't see dead bodies at the end of the trail. But politics, they run it just like organized crime. Your friend today, and they stab you in the back tomorrow. And this is the business we have chosen in politics, so you just suck it up and you just keep moving on.
Yep. No, we appreciate you coming on, Curtis. Thank you so much. We have full support. You know, I've been telling all my family members and stuff. Now we're looking forward to you being the mayor.
Yeah, and
thank you.
I know you're on the phone. You can't see it, but the chat is blowing up in support of you and wishing you well. And you know, listen, we appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us. We'll do everything we can to get the word out. You know, I can't stand everybody saying, you know, I think Curtis is the best, but I stop him right there. Stop with the but. Stop listening to the mainstream bullshit and get out there and vote with your head and vote with your heart, because Curtis Sliwa is the right candidate to turn the ship and the city around. So thank you very much.
Don't vote based on fear. You guys know you're in the streets, you show fear, you're dead. It's over. The criminals win. I've been in situations where I've been outnumbered, guns to my head. If I even blinked and shown fear, I'm dead. It's over. And this city is showing such fear about Zoran Mandami and the socialists. Fear, fright, hysteria, and it's being hyped. They feed off of that, just like the thugs in the street. Yeah. Police, you see, they're afraid to do a jump out. They're afraid to approach us. We got it like that. Whose streets are streets? Remember that. Whose streets are streets? And that's what the Zoranistas are basically saying to themselves. Whose streets are streets? And Curtis Lee would say, oh, no. It's all of our streets. You're not going to take our streets from us. We are going to improve and not move. We fight. And if I happen to lose, I'm not cutting and running like Andrew Cuomo told his billionaire friends in the Hamptons. Oh, I'm going to run to Florida. I will be Zoran Mandami and the socialists' worst nightmare, 24/7, 365. This is like Braveheart. This is for freedom. This is for our American way of life, and we must fight and not show fear. You show fear, the socialists win. You stand up, Americans win like we've always won in the past. We know how to win. It's time to man up and woman up.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%, Curtis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. We appreciate your time. Best of luck, and we will see you in City Hall, January 1, my friend.
When you're getting sworn in.
You got it.
There. Thank you so much for your time. All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A very passionate Curtis Sliwa, and it's not a show. You can tell. Yeah. No,
he really means what he says. If you haven't really looked at his plan, look at his plan. It answers a lot of the questions, you know. And basically some of the questions that we put out today, I took off his plan. If you look at the other candidates, like I've said earlier, it's just a smile and nothing, right?
Yeah. I never do this. You never see me with notes or anything for our shows. I couldn't even get to it. He's answering all my questions in his off the cuff conversation, because that's just who Curtis Sliwa is. That's who Curtis Sliwa is. Curtis Sliwa is the man of the people. Curtis Sliwa has the answers. A lot of stuff we wanted to get to. Obviously, it's like we said, it's the final stretch, and you know he's a very busy man. As you can see, you know he got stuck in the tunnel. He got on in the
You
car with us.
you ever get stuck in that tunnel?
Oh, God, it's
Once
horrible.
once marijuana was legalized in the city, if you got stuck in that tunnel, you could get high in that tunnel because everybody and their brother's smoking in that tunnel. It's crazy, but yeah, that tunnel's always bad.
Yeah.
But no, man, like you said, man of the people. He has a vision. He has a plan. Like you got to figure, like day one, that he's already knows his transition, right? He already knows what he's got to do. He doesn't have to wait for anything. He doesn't have to evaluate anything. He's been in the city for his whole life. He knows exactly what to do. He knows the spots. He knows, just like, all right, I patrolled the city for 35 years. I never really had any desk jobs, but I know the city, but that man knows the ins and outs, the subway system, everything. I mean, that's the guy you want. That's the guy that you really want for mayor, not somebody has inexperience or another guy that has bad experience. So I think it was a great job, on the run, right, while he's campaigning. So really
In the middle of everything
appreciate
else,
it.
in the back of the car, he's got other staffers hiding out, trying to stay out of the camera view. It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. This man is out there. He's passionate about it. He's,
I just love that he has the answers. When
he's got the answers
yeah.
unscripted.
Yeah, that's
Unscripted because he, and that's the thing. And I wanted to get it out, but I knew his time was limited. And, sometimes I get caught in my own words like I did that one time in the beginning, where he it's just in him. And people that may not have known him, unfortunately, the mainstream media is pushing it like it's a two-dog race when Curtis Sliwa is in there and they're discounting him and he's not getting the airtime that the other candidates are getting. You see, my wife and I watch the news every night, and you watch it, and it's like, all right, right at the end, there's a 10-second hit on Curtis Sliwa, but meanwhile they just did 3 minutes on the other two knuckleheads. And she's not getting fair airtime. But when you actually listen to him, and if you follow his social media, and his social media has absolutely stepped up. His social media game has stepped up. You saw that was really, Mamdani, he was killing it in the beginning, before the primary, and a lot of it had to do with social media. I think Mamdani has plateaued. I really do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And he, Cuomo has nothing. He throws out a tweet here, there. It's inconsequential, but Curtis Sliwa, if you listen, there's substance. It's not political rhetoric. It's substance. Now, I haven't been really able to follow along with the chat, but I see some people. I haven't seen all the comments because they've been scrolling past. But let's keep things respectful. I'm just seeing comments about people being disrespectful. I don't know what it is, so let's just keep the things in the chat respectable. We're a First Amendment platform. We want engagement, but let's be respectful to one another. And again, like I said, I'm not sure exactly what's going on, and I'm not going to scroll back and look.
Yeah, no, and when you talk about Cuomo, you also think about his aspirations. During COVID, his aspirations were clearly to become the president of the United States or run against Donald Trump when he could. And I only believe now that's the same thing. He only wants to brought himself back into politics as the mayor, and wants to, a stepping stone to become the next, try to run for the president. So, just like Ariana 2456 says, Cuomo thinks that New York City is a stepping stone. 100%, totally agree with you. That's on the last one. I mean, that's totally 100%. That's all he cares about. And then, when you look at Curtis cares about the city. Curtis has cared about the city. I remember as a young police officer, the senior guys would go, oh, you know, don't look at the guardian angels, don't help them, you know, they're vigilantes. And I didn't accept that. I didn't accept that because you know what? Truthfully, when you're on a foot post alone and you see the guardian angels, I felt secured myself because I said I know they're gonna, if something happens to me, they're gonna help me. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were helping the citizens. They were there when the police weren't there. So I mean, you know, I think I think his plans, you know, everything, even the expansion of the auxiliary units that he speaks about, I
Right.
totally agree. You know, and I remember, unfortunately, there was two auxiliary officers that were killed. I think it was back in 1993. They tried to stop somebody, yeah, in Greenwich, Manhattan. They tried to stop somebody that had just shot somebody in a pizzeria. I think the guy did a robbery, and they were actually, you know, killed right there in the streets. So I mean, you know
Executed,
that,
chased down and executed. I remember that
yeah,
on
yeah.
video.
The one was shot, and then he went down and chased the other one who was hiding behind a car. Executed. Terrible. But you know, those, you know, I give credit to that, and again, his plan spells everything out. I mean, you really need to look at that plan. And like I had asked about the overtime, because we know police officers are beat down. They're not appreciated. They have to, you know, come into work and then they're told you're not going home. And that's the worst thing you can do, right? I mean, hey, if you get an arrest, you get an arrest. You get stuck with it. But if you don't make an arrest, and you plan on going home, and the next thing you know, the desk officer or the patrol supervisor is telling you, "Oh, here's a you got to go down this detail, or I need you to stay for another 4 hours." That to me is insanity. And you know, by hiring more cops, I think that, you know, and then, you know, giving the people the overtime that want the overtime. I always tell the story. There was guys that were hungry for overtime, and they would get 35 hours, and then they would have be stopped. And then there'd be somebody else that didn't want any overtime, and you'd have to force that guy. I mean, you know, yeah, that doesn't everything have to be, equitable distribution. It could be sided to the people that want it, and then you should stay within your budget. That's all it should be. It should be a budgetary control, not an individual, you know? So, you know, I think his plan is outstanding. It answers all the questions. It's really good.
Yeah, yeah. And I've read through his platform in the past, read
Mhm.
through it again, preparing for, you know, tonight's interview. And again, it's just like he says, he's not looking to reinvent the wheel.
No.
He's looking to take upon things that have worked in the past and make them work in the current. Things that were taken away for the wrong reasons. You know, the George Floyd effect, or whatever you want to call it, and why things were taken away and why policies were changed that worked, that helped to bring under Rudy Giuliani. And don't get me wrong, we've both talked about this. We both think that the stop and frisk policies were abused. They were used for the wrong reasons. They were used for numbers
Yeah.
and
That's
dots on a map. But it is a great tool, a policing tool, when used properly and effectively. And this is what he wants to bring back. He wants to bring back, as Eric always says, intrusive police work.
Mhm.
Right? Go out there and target those that are targeting the community.
Yeah, no, I mean, once they put a number on certain things, and they should have realized that you can't put a number on such a, you know, things like that, like stop, question, and frisk. That has to portray when the person sees or believes, right, somebody has committed or is about to commit a crime. That's where it's useful. But when they did abuse it, they put, go, I need, how many U250s you have on this spot? How many you have on that? No, it's not the spot. It's what the officer sees, how the officer, you know, takes that information and brings himself up to the level of reasonable suspicion, you know? So it became just arbitrary and just a system number. I just want to read the names of the two guys, the two auxiliary officers.
Yeah.
It was Nicholas Picaro and I hope I'm saying this right, Eugenly Marskava. That was on March 14, 2007. So, and nobody had, the last auxiliary was actually back in 1993. So, I mean, Curtis knows the pain that the officers feel and everything out there. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, clearly he's the candidate that knows, he has the vision, the insight. I mean, I don't see how you can't vote for him. I really don't.
And I wanted to pose this question to him because it's something that I've thought about and I've discussed, in the past. Do you think that the fact that the Republican Party, the local Republican Party, all 5 borough heads of the Republican Party have backed Curtis Sliwa, but when you talk about nationally, the Republicans haven't gotten behind him, the billionaires haven't gotten behind him, and everything else. I mean, do you think that they're willing to give up this cycle of 4 years in New York so that it gets so bad that they say, look what the Democrats are doing to increase the odds of the midterm elections?
That's a good point. That really is. You never know, right? What's played behind?
I hate to be a conspiracy theorist and everything else, but
but you just
I don't
posed
usually
the
think that way,
conspiracy.
but I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. You don't have 2 other viable candidates. You have one viable candidate who, yes, he's not a politician, but neither was Trump. I voted for Trump 3 times. I don't agree with everything Trump does. I definitely don't agree with everything Trump says, but I think that he's been effective in his policies. Look at the deal he made with China just today, that people thought was not doable, because they know he means business. When he says, I'm going to put 100% tariff on you, it's done tomorrow. He means it.
That's great.
He's not joking. He doesn't talk shit. Whether we disagree on the tactics, but it's the art of the deal.
I often wonder what the pucker factor is. Like, oh man, he just said he's going to impose a 10% tariff on us. Oh my God, what do we do? Because he's going to do it. It's like they probably got to be scrambling. They got to be like, what can we do? What can we give them? What can we give back to the United States? Can we do this? Can we lower our tariffs? So and rightfully so. Why should the United States of America pay a bunch of tariffs and just give to the other countries when they're not giving anything to the United States? So, but yeah, it's craziness. But yeah, no, I mean that conspiracy. I know you said you're not a conspiracy theorist, but you just made a conspiracy theorist statement. So, but
yeah, I have to, because I listen. I try to be logical. I try to rationalize things and figure out why things are happening. Right? That's just my analytical me. When I used to look at things like why is this happening, so I can figure out a solution to fix it. Right? Yeah. That's what I used to do. I used to go into most of my assignments in 3/4 of my executive career were to go into places and try to make them better and fix things and improve things.
Right, that's your job. Yeah.
And I was selected for those positions because I was able to put good teams together and take a look at them and say, this doesn't make sense. Just common sense standards, really.
Yeah.
And the only one with common sense standards in this entire race is Curtis Sliwa.
Yep, absolutely.
I have a family member who absolutely is not not on the same political spectrum as I am. Mm-hmm. And having conversations after the debates, this family member says to me, he says, Curtis makes a lot of sense. What he's saying makes a lot of sense. And she, doesn't believe in the same ideologies as I do. But you can't argue with common sense. And he's got common sense solutions. You don't have to overthink things. That's what a lot of politicians do, right? Overthink things. And again, like he said, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? The family member's texting me with the big smiley face now on my phone. But
you hit a nerve.
No, but it's true. It's true. We try not to even talk politics, but it's unavoidable too. But common sense standards go so far. And, you look at Mamdani and people say he's the voice or the face of the Democratic Party, the upcoming, up and coming Democratic Party with AOC, this whole, Democratic Socialists of America, this DSA. And, we didn't get into it, but, Mamdani had a big rally at Forest Hills Stadium this past weekend, right?
Yeah. What that look like?
The picture here.
Can I address John B real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
At 6:13, he said the auxiliary murder was more recent, 2006 or 2007. You're absolutely correct. It was March 14th of 2007. When I made reference to 1993, that was the last time an auxiliary was killed. So we literally had gone close to 14 years without an auxiliary. I give the auxiliaries a lot of credit, for going out there.
100%.
They're wearing a uniform that's identical, other than a little thing that says auxiliary underneath their, or on top of their patch. I mean, they're putting themselves in harm's way immediately. So I give 100% credit and kudos to them for going out there and doing that volunteer work. God bless them.
Yeah. So Mamdani has a rally at Forest Hill Stadium here in Queens, and it's an AOC and a Bernie Sanders, event to prop him up. And they talk about all the diversity that he is all for, right? They're all for all the diversity and everything else. And you have the typical plants, right, for the podium picture. Now, if you look closely, you have a little bit of everything diversity, right? I see the Sikhs in the front row. I see a burqa in the back row. I see Hispanics. I see blacks. I see what could possibly be a trans. I see a little bit of everything in this photo, right? But then when you watch the video that was taken and posted online, tell me how diverse this crowd really is.
Thank you all for being in this movement with me. It is now my deep honor to introduce my colleague and comrade, Assemblymember Claire Valdez.
There you go. It's a DSA event. She says it right there. I joined the DSA, blah, 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 because of the movement. It's a DSA event, even though he admits to being a member of the DSA, but tries to deny the DSA platform that they put out about not prosecuting misdemeanors, making it, decriminalizing prostitution and so forth, defunding the police, dismantling the police, not even just defunding, dismantling the police, right? But how diverse was that crowd? That picture is very diverse.
The beginning picture, yeah. You know what that looked like, though? The crowd looked like? That crowd looked like the same crowd that followed the ICE agents down Canal Street. I bet you could have matched up some of the facial recognition right there. So I don't know. You get the picture up there, and then you have the screenshot that he wants to portray what he wants, and then you have the people that are in the seats. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's but that's what we're dealing with, right? So it's so important. And then there's another video that came out, another Mamdani, video, not from 2020, when he claims that he was caught up in the movement, the post-George Floyd movement, and the atmosphere and everything else, and all that crap. This was in 2023, at a DSA meeting. And here's what he really thinks. Like we said, and I'll talk about it after. But let's hear what he has to say.
I have to make it clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF.
When the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. But he's not anti-Semitic.
No.
Right?
No.
His answer, whenever he's questioned about comments he's made about the police, he was forced into, we talked about it last week or the week before, he was backdoored into a bullshit apology, a very disingenuous apology to the NYPD. Originally, he wouldn't even apologize. Oh, I speak in one-on-one with officers. Told them how I feel. His only answer when he talks about this, when he's asked about his comments about calling the NYPD racist and brutal, saying that there's no place for us responding to jobs, that we walk in and we terrorize people. I want to work with the NYPD as the mayor for public safety.
Nah.
That's your answer. That's your answer.
No, I don't know. You know, you talk about anti-Semitic crimes. I mean, that in itself says that. So can you imagine him as a mayor? And, you know, we've seen him all as videos, you know, different religious groups get assaulted just for, you know, being that religious group. As the mayor, do you think he's going to even do anything? You know, nothing. You know, when we spoke to Curtis earlier, you know, his son, you know, was assaulted, and I know he's raising 2 Jewish children, you know, like myself. I married a Jewish woman, and you know, our two girls are Jewish, so and that's fine. But you don't want anybody to be anti-Semitic, and you want somebody that's going to be pro law enforcement and stop those type of attacks. And God forbid it does happen, that the perpetrator is justly arrested and prosecuted appropriately. You think Madami is going to do that? Absolutely not. You think Cuomo is going to do it? Absolutely not. Curtis will do it. You know, he knows it. He understands it. So,
all right, we have on all the platforms over 3,800 people watching the show right now. So please like, share, subscribe. If you're on X, we have a lot of people watching on X on the platform. Please repost the show, get the show out there if you can. The chat is a lot more interactive on YouTube. If you can click over to our YouTube link, the channel over on the Finest Unfiltered, and join us in the chat. We appreciate everybody following, everybody listening. We had Curtis Sliwa on earlier. Took the time out in his in between events, talked to us from the car because he wanted to talk to us. He wanted to get out to our audience. So we really appreciate that. Mikey G asked a question, you know, will Curtis reinstate, compensate the cops from COVID? And the answer is absolutely yes. On day one, he has pledged to reinstate and compensate all city workers that were terminated or forced to retire due to the mandates. And, you know, they're going to have to work out the compensation package and everything else. There's a lot of litigation going on also. But the answer to that question is absolutely. We have spoken to Curtis in the past. We have spoken to Curtis offline. And he has said on the other platform, on this platform, on the other shows, that he absolutely has pledged to reinstate and compensate not just the cops, all city workers that lost their job due to the mandates.
and rightfully so, right? I mean, they were just terminated abruptly, and you know, one of our obviously John was, you know, pushed out. He shouldn't have been, right, unjustly, because they wouldn't accommodate him for his religious beliefs. Marlon was, he wasn't even terminated. Like the poor Marlon, you know, member of our family, he was just told you're done. No trial, no due process, nothing. I mean, how does that not, you know, and how does not every one of these candidates say that they're going to reinstate and compensate. That I don't understand. I mean, listen, if you know you made a mistake, you can learn from it, but you can also fix it. So why are the other candidates even saying that they would fix it? And why didn't Adams fix it himself? You know, a former member of the NYPD. But we know Curtis Sliwa is going to fix it. He's going to make it right, and that's important too. So
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't even want to talk about Adams anymore. Adams is a one and done. You know, he gave us plenty of content. He, you know, took a city in a bad place and made it worse.
yeah,
And he made it worse. And it is another thing I wanted to bring up to Curtis, if we had the time, because it's something I think is very important. It's something that he has said several times. I've heard him say it. He said it at the debate, and he said it in interviews, that he doesn't know it all. He's the only person that says that he doesn't have all the answers, right? He's humble enough to say it. And what does he say? I'm going to hire the right people. I'm going to take the people with the most experience and that can get the job done in whatever faction it is we're talking about. And I'm going to put the right people into those positions and give them the authority and latitude to get the job done.
yeah,
And that's what you need. We talk about it all the time.
all the time. Yeah,
In this administration, Mayor Adams gave all of his friends and cronies high-paying positions, very important positions, and they couldn't fulfill the job because they did not have the ability, they didn't have the skill sets. Being Eric Adams' friend does not give you the skill sets
no.
to accomplish the mission.
Uh-uh.
And that's
What
what
do
he did.
What? Yeah, exactly. What do we always say, right? If you're the smartest person in the room, that's not the room you want to be in, right? So
Yeah, get out of the room. That's
get out
right.
of the room. So you got to surround yourself with people. Listen, like I've said it, numerous times on the podcast, right? When I went to emergency service, I knew nothing about them, but I didn't come in and tell them what to do. I didn't come in and change things. What I did is you got to learn the job, listen to the people that are in there, and then you can make your decisions with a bit of confidence that you understand exactly what's going on. So for Curtis to admit that he's going to listen to people and he's going to evaluate things 100%. But one thing I know about Curtis, what he'll do, he'll take full responsibility, no matter what. He will not waver. I can guarantee you, the other two would push it away and blame somebody else. If you remember during the debate, Cuomo had one of his allegers in the audience that made the sexual harassment allegation against him. He couldn't even look that woman in the face. That sinful that he got away with that, and that as a taxpayer, we're still paying for that, right? We're still paying for whatever lawsuits and everything else that was settled or whatever behind the door deals were made. So I mean, it's crazy. Curtis has a strong past, dedicated to safety of the city. So, and that in itself, when the city's safe, businesses run better, the commerce is better. You remember Times Square when it was totally out of control? There was prostitution. It was a nightmare, right? And then Rudy Giuliani came in, turned it around. Next thing you know, there's the Disney store, there's the M&M store, which to me, the M&M store is a ripoff. You put a bag like this and you turn the handle a little bit, that bag fills up so fast. And you take it to the counter, it's like $10. I told my daughter, I don't know, honey. I said, I don't know if you're gonna eat all these M&Ms or not, but somebody is, because we're not wasting one M&M. But totally turn that whole area around, So that's what you need. You need a law and order mayor, and the only one is Curtis.
Yeah, without a doubt. And again, common sense. I can't explain it more than that, And I really attribute, that to a lot to do with my success. The ability to build a good team and looking at things from a common sense approach. not overthinking it, looking at it and going, that doesn't make sense. Why are we doing that? And being given the ability to change it, to make things better. And that's what he's looking to do. He said it himself. He didn't use the words, I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel, but it's exactly what he said.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what he said. I want to bring things back. They worked. There's so much. I mean,
that's the thing, though. He knows what works. He's seen it. He knows what works, and he knows what has to be put back in place. And those things that once put back in place, like the homeless outreach, you and I both know. We just spoke about it with Curtis. We both know how it worked and how the homeless knew the individuals, the officers that they built a rapport with, they built a friendship with, and that in itself is great that they were able to do that. And the poor homeless, they have a friend. They know where to go. They know how to reach when they're confronted by somebody. That's who they wanted to speak to. Somebody that they had spoken to already and from the homeless outreach. So I mean, those relationships, that's what builds communities. That's what builds the city. So that's what he's going to bring back.
100%. And there's another big thing again that is right on his platform. So I'm going to throw I'm going to throw it up. Right. It's www.sliwa4nyc.com. So please go on his website and look at his platform. It's very easy to maneuver around. You can look at the different topics. And one of the things he talks about, and I mentioned it and didn't get a chance to get really deep with it because he's so impassioned that, want to let him go, and he talks about bringing integrity back to City Hall and reforming the mayor's office of operations, right? And basically he wants to appoint a mayor, right? A deputy mayor of government efficiency, right? Basically Doge. He wants a Doge. We've been talking about that, right? When Doge came in, love Elon Musk, hate Elon Musk, whatever the case may be, people complain that a lot of people lost their jobs, but what were their jobs? Were they no-show jobs? Were they do-nothing jobs? What was the efficiency of the job? We had all these people making all this money, and I'm sorry that people lost their jobs, but if your job is useless, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. And the same thing we said needs to happen to the NYPD, right? Come into the NYPD. John and Eric talk about it all the time. Come into the NYPD and Doge the NYPD. Look at the NYPD and say, what is wasteful? What needs to be done away with? All these BS contracts, automatic re-upping of contracts without reevaluating them. They automatically get re-upped. And these are the things he wants to look at. The CCRB. We could talk about the CCRB for how long?
Yeah.
Right? The CCRB.
Could I just touch
Sure.
real quick with the who they picked, the contracts and everything else. I had to deal with minority vendors. Okay, not a problem, right? So we would purchase things through minority vendors.
Right, minority females. Right.
Yeah. So, and they were working, but most of them were working out of a garage in Brooklyn. So what happened is, we would order something, I could order from Staples for $100, but I had to go to a minority vendor. So the minority vendor would charge me $200, and you know who would show up and deliver it out to us to Floyd Benefield? A Staples truck.
Yeah, right.
All they did was call Staples and said, hey, deliver this to the NYPD Special Operations Division, and they would bill me. I was just, this is insanity. How do we do this? How am I giving somebody in a female in a garage with no stock, but I'm giving them $100? It was total insanity. But yeah, no, if you want to go into CCRB, I totally agree. And I like Eric was told today, right? With Robert Holder, Eric Dim was told, wear a badge and how many CCRBs you got, because he's right. If you're not out there doing police, we know this. If you're not out there doing police work, or if you are out there doing police work, you're going to get CCRBs. If you're not out there, you're not going to get anything. Yeah, you're a model police officer. No. I'd rather be the model police officer that goes out there, does my job, and gets the CCRBs. If that's part of it, then so be it. But, for poor Eric to get pushed off the job, that's not fair either. Okay. And that's where they take it to the other level. But I know in reading Curtis's plan, he's going to do a lot with CCRB with his appointments, right? I believe he has 5 appointments and the chair, I think, right?
And he
then
co-appoints the chair with the speaker of the city council.
yeah, so but I mean, having a good team on there can help it, and making sure that the NYPD retains final disciplinary position after the CCRB makes their recommendation, because there's no way that we should allow CCRB to decide what the punishment is, right? We've spoken about that in a prior podcast as well. So what's your take on that? What's your take on the CCRB?
I'm a little behind in the thing, but Marlon's jumping in. Marlon's the Finest Unfiltered's resident conspiracy theorist, and he's saying that the conspiracists have been right since 2020. Ron, embrace it.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm a little behind, guys. I'm sorry, but yeah, listen, the CCRB, like you said, the mayor gets 5 appointments, right? He also gets, or she gets, 1 appointment of the chair. They co-appoint the chair with the speaker of the city council. The police commissioner gets 3 appointments, and well, they actually get 3 selections, and those selections are appointed by the mayor technically.
Mm-hmm.
So, and those 3 are the only 3 that are allowed to have law enforcement background. But it doesn't mean that the other selections, 5 by the mayor and influence on the 6th, can't have common sense standards that want to look at things through an objective lens and not reverse engineer the cases against the officers, right? Which is what they do.
Right.
And go back and watch today's show on the Finest Unfiltered, and you'll see Bob Holden, right? And you'll hear things that you do not expect to hear from a tenured politician. And he's honest. He speaks about what politicians that he's dealt with and what politicians are really about themselves, and what they'll talk about in the behind the scenes, where they'll say, "Yeah, I agree with you, but if I don't go along with it, he's going to take away my committee." Because it's all about them. It's all about them and getting their advancements, right? So those 3 appointments, that's 3 more appointments by the mayor that are selected by the police commissioner that are allowed to have a law enforcement background. You have 1 by the public advocate, Jumaane Williams, and 5 by the city council. So that the 5 by the city council, the 1 by Jumaane Williams, are not going to be pro-police. Or even, I don't even want to say that they have to be pro-police. I don't want to be misconstrued here, that I want to have a bias towards the police or for the, on behalf of the police. We want to have an honest investigation and fair investigation done. We want due process given to the members of the department. And if they did wrong, then they did wrong, and they have to accept the consequences of doing wrong. But first of all, you shouldn't be creating your own cases. You shouldn't be White Soxing people where you're looking at them for an offense, and then you find out that they didn't do one small thing, and then you're gonna crush them with discipline. There were times on this job when that's what we did. And that's what Internal Affairs did. And then when the chief of Internal Affairs that was there for 20 years left, the new chief of Internal Affairs said, "We're not going to do that anymore. If you're looking at somebody for misconduct, and they didn't commit the misconduct, but you found violations, administrative violations, give them letters of instruction, which is non-disciplinary. Instruct them. Listen, during the course of the investigation, we found this. Don't do it anymore."
Yeah.
And that's what's been going on. Everything is discipline, and how can we hammer and crush these cops? And, you put somebody in like Curtis Sliwa, and you're going to get the majority of the CCRB appointments, because they're 3-year appointments and most of them are overdue. And there's 3 vacancies right now. But you're going to find that you're going to have a better chance of getting a legitimate investigation. And an oversight, they're an oversight agency. But they're biased. And even Bob Holden today says that he used to talk and he'd be on Zoom meetings during COVID with members of the CCRB. And in their office, they would have anti-police things on the walls behind them.
That's crazy.
It blew
Imagine.
me away. So blatant, so obvious. So, that's just another thing that Curtis Sliwa has pledged. You get Zoran Mandami in, and he has said that he believes that the police commissioner should not have final say on things. But look, the district attorney prosecutes a case in front of a judge. They don't get to then, on top of that, if they win their case, dole out the discipline or dole out the sentence. But that's what they want CCRB to do. They want CCRB to be the judge, jury, and executioner.
That's crazy.
And that's not what due process is in this country.
No. And just with CCRB reading from Curtis's plan, he says he's going to require the CCRB investigators to participate in police ride-alongs firsthand so they understand police work, right? So that makes sense. I know when Sergeant Jerry Flood from the A team, which does a lot of the warrants, would go down to CCRB and explain to them why they came in on a warrant and put people on the ground, how they were able to handle them with a bunker in their hand. And once they understood it, it lessened the amount of CCRBs, or at least substantiated CCRBs, that the members of the A team would get. So, and he also says he wants to increase the CCRB staffing for serious allegations while reducing resources spent on the minor frivolous complaints that waste time and taxpayer dollars. Just like you said, don't white socks the poor police officers. All right. Stay within your boundaries and investigate what you're supposed to be investigating. Don't go after stupid little stuff that happens later on. So, right there, that's part of Curtis's plan. So he's already addressed those things. He's put forward. So he's like I've said in his plan, he talks about Rikers Island and the jails and everything else. You have to read that because step by step he explains everything. He's really meticulous and talks about each of those topics and is able to articulate a reasonable path to get to the way the city should be, and making sure that it's there, that it's written out and the plan is black and white. What do you got there? I know that I got a question. Mikey G, who's a good friend to the podcast and stuff, at 0637. Ron, if you could, I throw the time up for you.
637?
Yeah, it's a question on if he thinks that, and I think he asked it earlier. I know a couple times.
He did, and you want to laugh. Marlon just texted me that question too.
Did he too? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the question on whether he thinks
he would take Sewell back.
Sewell back, yeah. Or even what do you think? Do you think he would take Sewell back?
No.
Or do you think Sewell would even come back?
No, I don't think Sewell would come back. I don't think you go there. I think that she came, she tried. She wasn't allowed to be the commissioner that she wanted to be and she needed to be. So I think I think that she's moved on. She's got a nice job with the Mets now. She's the head of security over at the Mets, the vice president of security with the Mets organization. Would she come back? I don't even think she would. Why should she at this point? Again, I think the best thing to do, and I think Bob Holden brought this up today too, is bring somebody back that's retired. Somebody from that understands where the job was, and I think that Curtis Sliwa has said at the debate stage that he would keep on Commissioner Tisch. Or like we said in the beginning of the show, all three candidates have claimed that, right? So I don't know. I think that Curtis Sliwa would keep her on through the transition, and right. She would transition out. So that's my personal opinion, and I do think, especially with the mindset of Curtis Sliwa, from speaking with him and going through his platform, where he looks back at what works and wants to bring back what works and make it applicable to today's policing, I do think that you go back and you find one of those well-respected chiefs that understood the job, and you bring them in as the police commissioner, or you know, or something like. Or that's what I think. I don't honestly. I don't think that Sewell would be asked back, and I don't think that she would come back.
No, I don't think she would come back either. You know, even if she was asked, I mean, when you talk about like somebody that came up to the ranks that has, you know, has been a good leader, and I always think of, you know, Bobby Boyce, who was on the 10-4 Tavern 2 weeks ago. You
I
know,
agree.
even in the chat earlier, Mike Marino, that he would be another guy that would, you know, could come back as the police commissioner, would be a great choice, because those are two individuals that loved police officers, respected them. Didn't matter what their rank was, what rank they attained, but knew that the police officers and the boots on the ground were the ones that did the job, and those are the ones that you need to make sure are happy. And when they are, they'll follow you to the ends of the world. If they know the vision, they understand the job, and you don't waver on them, you don't change it midstream, right? You can't in the middle of a baseball game in the seventh inning, yeah, right after the seventh inning stretch, you don't change it that 2 strikes is an out, right? You know, you got to keep consistent, and I think they and they would. You know, I think they are really good good choices. You know, so.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm a little behind at 6:19, and it's now 6:47. I'm 20.
Wait,
20
hold
minutes
on. Oh,
behind.
I get yelled at every time, and I just got yelled at by Samara Coleman. It's not you and I are both retired, and it's not 6:18. It's 18:18. They want military time. Our friends and family in the chat, they want military time.
Oh, but the chat's not in military time. When I'm looking
I
at
know,
the
but I
chat,
get yelled
you're
at every
right.
time.
And
I
you
can't.
say 0619 because that's how it's listed.
I know. I
It doesn't
try,
say
but
619. It says 0619. So I know
you
it
got to
sounds
go
like
with the,
military time. You're saying 6:19 in the morning when you say that. But
right.
I
You
know
got to go.
exactly what you mean.
You got to go with the chat. You
At
got to go.
18, Samara, at 18:19 hours,
There you
Juju
go.
said I'm reporting Ron Layson for misinformation. I'm not sure at 18:19 exactly what I was talking about, but thanks, Juju, for pointing out my misinformation, whichever that was. I love you, Juju. We appreciate you following, and you always have a voice here because it's the First Amendment platform. We can agree to disagree on a lot.
That's it. Juju's always with us, so.
He's not always with us on the nights. He must be working overtime.
Is it? He gets up early, right? Doesn't he get up early? So
He does. Travels down from the Bronx to work. Takes
is
the
he in the
train.
Bronx? Yeah.
He's a Bronx man. He's a Bronx man.
All right. 50, I remember him saying not too long ago. So
Well, the rough part.
yeah.
You're a Bronx guy.
That's it. I love the Bronx. Yeah. The 50, when I was in NSU 9 or FTU 9, nobody wanted to. We get the Russian mission up in the 50. It was the most boringest post ever. It was, you know, one guy got the booth and the other guy had to walk around. It was terrible. So, but
Hey, listen, we have, like I said earlier when Curtis was on, we have 5 days left of early voting. So here are the hours. Today, the polls are open till 8 p.m. And then Thursday, they're open from 9 to 5. Friday, they're open 8 to 4. And Saturday and Sunday, they're open 9 to 5. And then, of course, on Election Day, they're open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's 0600 to 2100 for Samara.
yes.
So let's get out there. And listen, the early voting, there's been quite the turnout. And depending on who you want to talk to, of course, the spin will be that it favors one candidate or another. And this is as of last night, the closing of the polls. almost 300,000 people have voted early. And I tried to find it online because I like to have a reference. You know me. I like to have a reference when I'm talking about something, so I don't give misinformation to Juju. But I couldn't find it. But it's been reported heavily that a vast majority of the early voters are not young voters. They're middle-aged voters. I don't want to say the numbers because I don't want to say it off the top of my head, and then somebody finds it and I'm misquoting it. But they're saying more middle-aged than younger voters, and historically, that's not going to. Well, if you look at the demographics of really the candidates, right, you would say that that's not in favor of Mamdani, that he's got a younger voting base. So now you're going to say it's either for Curtis Sliwa or for Andrew Cuomo. And then when, you look at where people are voting early, the darker numbers are the higher percentages. So, on Staten Island, it was like 17% of all voters have voted early. I'm going to say with pretty much certainty that Staten Island heavily favors Curtis Sliwa, since I don't know that Mamdani knows how to get to Staten Island. I've never seen a post or heard anything about Staten Island from Mamdani. And I think that if Andrew Cuomo found his way to Staten Island, he would get asked to go back over the Verrazano Bridge because he's not going to be that welcome. And I have some pretty tight ties to Staten Island. So
I think he would just be on the SIE heading to Jersey anyway and go down to Jersey Shore. So
there you go, right? But Manhattan could lean heavily towards Mamdani, and Manhattan is the second highest numbers. But it says a lot that you're getting a lot more. I couldn't find again the numbers to compare, but excuse me.
No, it's interesting. The numbers, right? You said 300. What was the last turnout? Was like 500,000, I think, for the primaries and stuff. It looks like there's a pretty good turnout, And like I said, I told you earlier, the older people and mostly Republicans, right, they tend to vote early. And it was down in Florida. That's all you saw, early voting. And like I was kidding around with you, but it's probably serious. They vote early so that they don't have to go out on election day, stand in lines, and hold them up for the early bird specials, which it could hold them up. So they got to get there. But interesting. Those are interesting numbers, and it's good to see that people are getting out there and vote. No matter what, it's good to see people getting out there and vote. You have 8.5 million people in New York City. Let's get out there. Like Eric Dim says, the early bird gets the worm. Absolutely. Get ahead of the game,
Yeah, and again, obviously, we've endorsed Curtis Sliwa. This network has endorsed Curtis Sliwa, and we want everybody to go out and vote. We're proponents. Go out and vote. Vote your conscience. Like I said, don't listen. When you listen, and you actually listen, if you listen to Curtis Sliwa, you're going to go, why am I not voting for Curtis Sliwa? There's plenty of reasons to say, why am I not voting for Mamdani? There's plenty of reasons to say, why am I not voting for Andrew Cuomo? And people could find reasons not to vote for Curtis Sliwa. Again, he's not a polished politician, which I think is a positive, and he's not a perfect person, but he admits when he makes mistakes, and he stands up and he'll stand up to his mistakes. So you look at this and you say, why am I not voting for Curtis Sliwa? He's got the common sense answers. I just keep going back to that. I'm sorry.
You're right.
I keep going back to it. He's got the common sense answers to right the ship
No,
And
and like we've said in the past, right? Every vote counts. So,
every
you know,
vote,
get
I
out
put it on my
there and
social
vote.
media, hashtag every vote counts.
That's what's important.
The groundswell, I drive around the city, I see a lot of Curtis signs. I just in this last week, I've seen some Cuomo signs. I hadn't seen them before. I never see a Mamdani sign anywhere. I have not seen one. I see Curtis Sliwa signs everywhere. And I've just, like I said recently, in the past week and a half, started to see some Cuomo signs pop up. But you talk to people on the street, like, where's the exit polls? Why do you think 5 days in to early voting with 300,000 votes cast, where are the exit polls? Why aren't they coming forward with exit polls? Now,
they're not getting the answer they want, right?
Right, the candidates control the polls, right? And Curtis Sliwa has said he's not going to do polls because he doesn't believe in the polls. And we talked about the polls,
Right.
right?
You can't, but you also can't believe in exit polls either, because exit polls, somebody could lie coming out of a thing. Oh, who'd you vote for? Oh, I voted for when in fact I voted for Curtis. So I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right.
True. But most of the time, if they're going to stop and they're going to talk to you as an exit poll, because I've been asked at exit polls and I've just either I've spoken the truth or I've said that I'd rather not say. It's my business.
Right.
But so I think that most of the times when people are coming out of exit polls, they're going to tell you the truth. But now, what are people recording when they say it? Are they really recording what my answer is?
You never know.
Right? Who's taking that poll? Is Andrew Cuomo's people out there taking the poll?
Yeah.
And then I tell them I voted for Curtis Sliwa, and they go Andrew Cuomo.
Yep. Give the check.
So I mean, listen. But why aren't they taking it? Because I think that, to be honest with you, when you talk to people out in the street, when you talk to people and you look at the social media, and again, don't get me wrong, because social media is like Google, right? It follows the algorithm. So if I'm following Curtis Sliwa and I'm following Sliwa for mayor, Team Sliwa, and I'm following other conservative people, I'm going to get conservative posts on my feed.
Right.
Right. So when I'm looking at my feed, I'm seeing all these things. I understand that a lot of it is an algorithm, but I see, and you hear these people on the street talking, and, John made a good point today in one of his X posts. He's been very vocal. He's very active in social media. We're over 4,100 viewers. The majority are on John's X. So again, I encourage people to swing over to YouTube, get in the engagement, get in the chat. I'm trying to catch up with the chat. We're going to do an Ask an Executive segment pretty soon, and then call it a wrap. But he said that you hear people saying, I'm going to vote. Curtis Sliwa can't win. And you say, why? Because of the polls. But people don't believe in the polls. But they're still going to say that they're not going to vote for him because of the polls, because he's polling in less than 20%, right? But those are the same people that say they don't believe in the polls because the polls showed Cuomo 30 points ahead prior to the primary, and then he lost by 13 points, right?
Yeah.
So, Trump was behind in the polls before Election Day and blew out Kamala Harris on Election Day, right? We talk about that. We talk about, go back to, Andrew Cuomo's father, Mario Cuomo. I said it at the right time this time.
That's right? It. You got it.
I got it.
Get yelled at.
And he was leading in the polls up to the day before election and lost by 3% to George Pataki, who backs Curtis Sliwa.
Right.
So polls are what they are. So don't
polls
believe
can be
polls. Go out and vote your conscience. Vote who you think is the best candidate.
Polls can be skewed any which way you want. It's almost like, how the media, how somebody, how the particular party wants to report it. So you can't believe that. Go out and, like you just said, go out and vote your heart. You know, like we've said, we've endorsed Curtis. We believe everything that he says. We believe in his platform, very comprehensive platform, and we believe that it will be the right thing for the city. It will turn the city back to law and order, and it will keep everybody safe. Businesses will prosper, and people will be able to walk down the street again and not fear, being assaulted or hurt or freedom back to do what you need to do in this the great city. Something that you and I both worked for how many years to make it that way?
65 years in total, right? Between us.
Yeah.
And then you look back now and we look over our shoulder, and like Eric says, and Eric's in the chat here today, and I'm a little behind. I'm at 18:30 hours, Samara, so I'm 30 minutes behind in the chat. But Eric says he travels the country, he travels the world, and
right.
You used to, anywhere you went, even when we were younger. I wouldn't tell people I was a cop. I would say I was doing construction. But anytime you heard or you had a conversation with other cops, NYPD, they wanted to gravitate to you, right?
Every cop says they were in construction.
Because it's because we don't have to answer anything. If I say I'm doing something else, I have to have knowledge about it.
I can see somebody saying,
construction, I just have to know how to put a hammer and a nail together. If I say I'm
there's so many construction workers in that city.
Yeah. But everybody wanted to gravitate to you, and hear stories and talk to you. Now people are like, what the hell's going on in your city? What the hell's going on with your department? And that's the truth. And it's sad. It's sad. Like you said, we put our heart and our soul into this job and into this city. And every place that I went, and I was at a lot of places as an executive, I always tried to make it better than when I got there for the community, not for Ron Layson. Listen, I never expected any of my promotions. My 2 discretionary promotions that I got were complete surprises to me. Complete surprises. I stopped chasing the carrot. I chased the carrot when I was a young captain. I worked a zillion hours. I did everything from working crazy hours, not putting in for all my overtime, to going to work with broken bones. Because I thought that I had to be there to be, quote unquote, in the game.
Right.
Literally a cast on my foot. Literally my arm.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Broken, my elbow broken in the line of duty, and back to work. No, doc, don't worry about it. Put me back to work. I'll stay in the office. This way I can catch up with my paperwork. What was I thinking?
Nah.
So I stopped chasing the carrot, because and then I put my focus. I'm just gonna, wherever I am, I'm gonna give it 110%, and I'm gonna do what is best for the community. And who's the only one that's out there that is looking out for the best interest of the city of New York?
Yeah. Listen, I stopped chasing my carrot early on in my career. I became a captain in 2002, and then I went to ESU in 2003. That carrot was gone. Nobody got promoted out of ESU, So I knew it though going in. I said, listen, I'd rather go into ESU and have fun and do police work and work with the greatest, men and women that I've ever worked with in the police department than get promoted. It was just by chance and by some of the, like you said, some of the people that I didn't know but knew me got me promoted. So I'm very appreciated to that. But definitely. Oh.
So if you're going to go out and vote, and you're going to vote for Curtis Sliwa, I'm going to pop up one of his. How do I get this off? All right. He put out a post just to make sure that we are voting properly, so that your vote counts. If you're going to vote, make sure your vote counts, right? So Curtis Sliwa is running on 2 lines, right? Republican and the Protect the Animals lines. Make sure that you vote one line, right? And if you're voting in, you vote in New York City, I voted early on the first day. Column A is the Democratic column. Column B is the Republican column, right? And I think down the line, and I'll show it in a second, I think, it is the Protect Animals line, right? You can't vote for him on both lines. So vote for him on one line, either the Republican or the Protect the Animals. And this goes for whoever you're voting for, right? Make sure you bubble your vote in fully and you flip the ballot over. And what Curtis is suggesting is that you vote no to stop developer control. And then he put up a short video. I'm going to throw it up real quick. Just this was again on Curtis Sliwa's post, how to make sure that you can make your vote count.
When you vote for Curtis Sliwa, make sure your ballot is filled out correctly so your vote counts. Curtis Sliwa is a candidate on two lines, the Republican line and the Protect Animals line. You can vote for him on either, but you have to pick one. Choosing both will cause an overvote, forcing you to fill out your ballot all over again. When you vote for Curtis, make sure to fully fill in the oval. If you only partially fill in the oval or check it off, your vote may not count. Also, make sure not to leave any stray marks on your ballot, as it will make it harder for the scanner to read your ballot. And remember, flip over your ballot to vote no on all 6 proposals. Together, we can elect Curtis Sliwa and save New York City.
So,
Good stuff.
yeah, just a little, I like my tutorials, right? All right, you want to? You got anything else on this? I'm trying to catch up on the chat.
No, I think you just get out and vote. And a vote for Curtis is a vote for the city of New York and for safety and security.
All right. So we're 2 hours in. Hit that like, share, subscribe. We got 4,200 people on all the platforms that are watching the show. We appreciate the support. We appreciate the engagement. I know, like I said, I was a little behind because I wasn't really paying attention to the chat during the interview. Want to give all my attention to Rob and to Curtis. So if we have any questions, I don't know if Rob wrote anything down. Like he keeps track for us as we go along. I'm going to try and catch up on the chat here a little bit. Do we have any questions? There was none in the emails. Nobody sent any emails in this week. And remember, you could send a question offline to the executive perspective at gmail.com, or you could DM us at exec perspective on X. The DM is open. You can DM us any questions. We will keep your identity confidential if you want, and we'll answer your questions. And like I said last week, we did have one question that we didn't feel was appropriate to answer on air, so we did answer it offline. We did respond and get back to you. So if you have any questions, you can always send them to these locations. If you have any comments or any suggestions for future shows, we'll take those also as well. So
I did grab one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one at 1846. Remember, I said 1846.
I'm almost there.
It was from 92 Charlie.
92 Charlie.
He's asking basically, nope,
It was 90. No, that was just before. I just saw him, so I clicked it.
Yeah, 1846.
Oh,
it was.
We take the PC spot. We were asked.
Yeah,
there you go. Go ahead, you go first. I'll try and catch up.
Well, I wouldn't turn it down.
I wouldn't turn it down. I had this conversation with Tom Joyce earlier. I was
Did
texting
you?
back and forth with Tom Joyce he's on the Finest Unfiltered Network. He has a show with Pete Faselli called the 10-4 Tavern, Tuesdays, 7:00. Check it out. Great shows. Last night he had Christian Quinn from Fairfax County, Virginia, rose through the ranks to chief. Now he's working in the private sector in the AI field. Go back, take a look at that show. Another great show with them. But I was texting back and forth with Tom, and we said the same thing. We were talking about, Mandami, and, do we think it's going to be Issa Abbasi if Mandami gets in? And we were both saying the same thing. You know, do you think he would take it? And we both said, who would turn it down? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I wouldn't turn it down. Personally, I don't know that I'm qualified for the job, but you look
What?
at some of the you look at some of the past ones. I think
No.
there's other jobs that I'm more qualified for. The police commissioner job, you know, I'm not a politician. You have to be part politician. You really do. Would I do it? I would do it. Would I succeed? I think I would succeed because, again, I would build my team.
Yeah, no, I would just, like I've said in the past, the only thing I'd want would somebody be like, you know, the mayor. I'd want to be able to, you know, speak to and give my opinion, and you know, work that way. I wouldn't want to be like a authoritative type of position where I wouldn't be able to you know, to change things or do things. And specifically, what I hated was I wouldn't want that I would have to ask who I can and who I can't promote within the NYPD, that I would have to ask the mayor. I don't think that's a chief, you know, chief's, I mean, that's a position for the police commissioner. Should have to ask the mayor and send a list over to the mayor for approval. I mean, I understand maybe, you know, bureau chiefs and stuff like that, just to get, you know, to get their input on it. But I would want that particular capability to pick the people who I think are best going to serve, you know, my department. So, but I would definitely take Marlon as my intel commissioner, and then you know, if Ron, I would take you as my chief of staff if I was picked.
Right.
So yeah,
I'm there. Yeah. No, listen. You know, again, you know, I wouldn't turn it down. Maybe I'm selling myself short by saying I'm not qualified. You know, we were executives for you know, over 20 years. I think we know the job pretty well. We know
yeah,
the ins and outs.
definitely.
I've had administrative positions, as well as the majority of my career was actually enforcement. But again, it's about building the team, right? It's about building the team. So you build the right team, and again, like you said, you have, and I've said it time and time again, you have to have the autonomy to run the job. And I agree with you up to the 1-star position. Two-star positions, there should be a collaboration with City Hall, whether it's going to be the deputy commissioner of public safety who doesn't oversee the police department, and again, putting the right person in that position, not just, you know, putting somebody because you grew up knowing them, whatever the case may be. Yeah. But having the right person there that has the understanding of the police department, and definitely the bureau chiefs, because I know in the past the policy has been that the bureau chiefs had to go and interview with the mayor before they got appointed. So, what else? We got any more?
No, I thought Samara Cohen asked something. I thought but I missed it and I can't find it. So
Samara, if you're still watching and you have a question, just throw it back out. Anybody else? Again, the Ask the Executive. We take the banner down. And the comment. Ask the Executive is when you get to ask Rob and Ron questions from the chat, or like I said, you could either DM us on X at Exec Perspective, or email us at theexecutiveperspective@gmail.com with any questions during the week, and we could get back to you or answer on the show. We will definitely keep your identity confidential, because we know that there could be some backlash if not. But a lot of people don't have access to executives on the NYPD. Here you have access to 2 former executives who spent a lot of time in a lot of different places, and we can give you our answer or our opinion. And again, I say this all the time, right? The podcast is not a newscast. It's our perspective. It's the executive perspective. It's what we feel and what we think from our experiences on this job, the police department and the NYPD, and our life experiences. So,
I see area 2456 at 1908. She says, I have a question for next time, which is, do the police earn enough? And why do so many moonlight as security?
all right, go ahead. You take that.
Well, I think that they should. I don't know if they earn enough. I don't. They're still under. I think Nassau and Suffolk. They still don't make the same amount as they do. So I think there should be parity there. They should at least get the same of that. And I'm not sure if they're still underneath the state police. I know the state police had taken blew the socks off of the PBA contracts. And I like what Curtis talks about, taking the steps away so that you're front ended, right? So you make more money up front rather than have that 5 year stretch out. I think even Nassau has like a 7 year stretch out. Let's bring it up to the first or second year. That's a great way to retain police officers, because if you pay them enough in the beginning, they're less likely to say, let me go take a pay cut for another police department. No, if I'm making this much right now, why would I lower my salary and go to another police department when I can continue with this? And why do the moonlight as security? Yeah, there's some times where they need extra money, right, to supplement their income. Sometimes, they have better control over work and security because they can schedule it rather than having being stuck all of a sudden. Let's say you're going to go out to dinner for a birthday party with the family, and you expecting to go home, and next thing you know, you get a notification, oh, you got to go, you're staying for overtime because we're short or whatever, or we got a detail coming up, and they just notify you. I'd rather have it where I know, okay, on Saturday, I'm going to go do security from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock, I'm going home. So I think there's some stability there with the off duty as security or moonlighting, as opposed to getting the overtime within the police department. It's kind of arbitrary and capricious. How to say it? I got it. I said it.
You got it in there. You got it. You got an arbitrary and a capricious in there for John.
That's it for you, John.
Listen, I agree. I don't think that the money is really the main crux of getting people on the job, because the money's pretty good right now. You're right. We're not the highest paid in the country, but you're making a living wage. In the NYPD, cops are making over $100,000 base after their top pay, plus the overtime. So I think the cops are making a good wage. When we were cops, we had a right to complain. We could barely pay our bills, and we all drove around in hoopties, right? We all drove around in beaters that, I've talked about it in the past, where thank God my first partner, John, shout out to you if you're listening. He yelled at me last time because I called him, people who think they're mechanics, when he was a legitimate mechanic. That was his side job. That was his job before he got a job, and his side job while he was on a job. But I wasn't specifically talking about him, because John was an actual mechanic. Would work on your car for you and do your favors, working on your car for you to keep it running, And we all drove the old beat up cars to the precincts because they would get beat up, doors would get dinged up, and they would get stolen at the precincts and things like that back in the day. And we couldn't afford. Now you see, you go to work and you see BMWs and Mercedes Benzes and all these other luxury cars. People live above their means nowadays as well. Well, we couldn't live above our means. We could barely live at our means. But I don't think that the pay is as big of a negative as it was in the past. And I agree with you 100%. Work in security, some people can't get enough money. They do live above their means. So they are constantly working either overtime, or they're working paid detail, or they're working a side gig as security or whatever. And why do they work security? Because you're a cop. So cops work security jobs because they're going to get hired as a security guard because they're armed. So I think we answered that.
Hey, I think Sleepy Joe had one for you. I believe it was 1901 hours.
I'm close. I'm close to 1901.
And then we got another one from Marlon at 1913, but I know Sleepy Joe was 1901. You want me to start it, reading it, and then?
Yeah, I'm catching up.
It says, probably a housing specific question, Inspector, but if you have Pomanak Auto and
Pomanak.
just an Pomanak Auto Zone alone, yet it's answering jobs all over the sector. Why not just put out the regular sector?
Let me see if I can read that. 1901?
1901, yeah.
Like 20, there's like 20 things that came over at 1901. I love it, guys.
Sleepy Joe. Good friend of the podcast.
Oh, did I pass it? Oh, here it is.
Gotcha. Yep.
Probably a housing specific question, Inspector, but if you have a Pomanak Auto and just the auto alone.
What's a Pomanak Auto?
Pomanak Auto is basically an auto that's assigned to PSA 9 in Queens South in the 107 area. It's covering the Pomanak houses, which is a large development in Queens South.
That's a development.
Sector. Why not just put out the regular sector? Like anything else, you do what you have to. I mean, in Queens South, a lot of times you have one car covering the 107, one car covering the 103. But I don't know how to answer that. I mean, it's like if you only have one sector and they go out of sector Adam, but they're covering sector Adam to sector John. You have to list somebody on the roll call as a certain sector, they're not going to come over as a Pomanak order. They're going to come over as their RMP number, but in housing. But yeah,
is Pomanak development? Is that why?
Yeah, Pomanak development, where the actual and actually PSA 7 is based.
Oh, okay.
The main house of PSA 7 is based in Pomanak, right around the corner from the 107 precinct. So it's like everything else. It's you're putting out the sector. What it is on paper, it is on paper. What they're covering, they're covering. And if back in the day, no housing available was kind of a joke that people would always hear on the radio, and we tried to, I know in PSA 7 they and 8 and 9, you tried to pride yourself that wouldn't come over, that they would cover, their housing jobs, take ownership, and that's what was something that we did. But if you don't have the personnel, you don't have the personnel,
right? And
like everywhere else, we were short. And
but was there a reason to call it that specific development so people would hear it, or no?
No, not necessarily. And I don't even know that there was a specific Pomanak Auto on the air. I didn't get that deep into the roll calls, as the borough commander. But it would be the same thing. You may have somebody in the Pomanak houses as a Pomanak Auto because the crime was up, there was shootings recently or whatever. So you want to get that out there, and you want to have that assigned that way, so it shows up on the roll call. But they're going to answer jobs elsewhere if they have to. But they're not going to respond all the way out, to the 103 or whatever the case may be. We would notify the local precinct that we're not covering housing that night, if we don't have the coverage, which wasn't really the case that often, because especially in Pomanak, because most people wanted to work there because it's easier to get there than over to Ravenswood. The Ravenswood satellite, and if you lived in Long Island, if you lived in Brooklyn or you lived in the Bronx or Manhattan, you want to work over in Ravenswood. But to get to Ravenswood from Long Island is a hole over in Astoria. So I hope I answered your question.
Then we had 1913, Marlon. He asks, what can immediately be done by Curtis to raise NYPD morale?
I think we touched on it. Do you want to take it?
No, go ahead. You got it.
I think we touched on that with Curtis. I think if you can get, the first thing you have to get is confidence in the leadership again. And that's going to boost morale, because when you have no confidence in your leadership, you don't want to come to work. You don't know what you're walking into. You don't feel like you're back, that like your leadership has your back. You don't feel like the community has your back, when the vast majority of the community does have our back. But the legislators have shown that they don't. The leadership has shown in a lot of ways that it doesn't, that they're out for themselves and their own best interests. So I think that's the number one thing, is to regain the confidence of the rank and file in the leadership.
Yeah, I just think Curtis getting elected is going to change the morale, right? They're going to see, oh man, this is a guy that finally is going to take care of us and understands the, the functionality and the, the threat and the discipline that is required by, police officers. So I think just that in itself is going to raise it. And then everything he does, like he's spoken about on his website, is and he enacts those things. Each enactment is gonna bring morale up. So if you want to grab PB at 1916.
Oh, that's way ahead of me. Just want to scroll through real quick. 1916.
1916. He asks,
Yeah,
can
start reading
Curtis, huh?
Start reading it. I'll catch up.
Okay, can Curtis Sliwa fire the current commissioners at NYPD? Also, is Kaz Daughtry a police officer or not? If not, why is he always in the NYPD gear?
Well, he can ask every commissioner to leave and replace every commissioner if he comes in as a mayor. That's the mayor's discretion. You work at the discretion of the mayor. You kind of know that it's the same thing in the police department. When you take a super chief spot, it always was. You knew that you had a job until the next administration. The next police commissioner is going to select the next person. Very few people carried over. But the problem was with the NYPD, and another reason that there's morale problems, another reason that there's not confidence with the upper echelon is because there was such a turnover.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much turnover, whereas you had stability under Ray Kelly because he was there for so long. Maybe too long. People were in positions for too long sometimes because he was there for 3 terms. So, and when you have a turnover every year, every other year of the police commissioner, you're having a lot of turnover with your upper echelon in the NYPD. Whenever you have a change in administration in the government, you're going to have a change in administration in most of the commissioner spots. As far as Kaz Daughtry is a detective first grade on leave of absence, and his job is the deputy mayor of public safety. I don't know how that's going to work out with his retirement come January 1st and where that lays. I don't remember his exact date of appointment and when he had 20 years with the NYPD that was pensionable. So I don't know where he's going to lay his head once January 1st comes around. But I'm sure he's either going to vest, if he doesn't have 20 years, buy back the time if that's possible. I don't know how that works when you're on a special leave as he is. Because don't forget, he went from uniform to civilian when he was appointed as an assistant commissioner and a deputy commissioner.
Right.
So he I don't know how that time is pensionable towards your pension. I don't know how that works.
No.
And then once he left the NYPD and he's working as a civilian deputy mayor for public safety. And so, he's got a job lined up already somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
He's the drone czar somewhere because he can talk a good game. And on paper, he looks great.
So at 1916, Mikey G asks, how many years until somebody should be considered for the detective squad?
Gab, what do you think? I know what I think.
I think 5. I personally think 5. I know that, that basically 5 years for even a police officer to apply to specialized units like ESU and stuff. I think 5 years. I mean, who usually gets it less? Yeah, it's usually the nepotism and cronyism, right? That's who gets promoted with it, prior to that. So I think 5 years is good. I think that the police officer knows the job with those 5 years, and I also would consider their assignments as well. So if you're certain positions, if you're assigned, let's say, to the DCPI, and no offense to anybody that is, but if you're just cutting out newspaper articles and posting it, I think you should have a little bit more patrol experience. I love patrol. I think that's where it really, really happens, and I think that you need to do your time on patrol before you should be able to get something, easy like a job like that. So. And Marlon wants to be my deputy commissioner of social media when I become the police commissioner. Absolutely, and I'll definitely give you. I'll give you a little bit more than that, Marlon. I'll give you over 300K if you want, and a car. Somebody asked us earlier. I forget who it was. I'm sorry, but they asked, did you guys keep your category 1 cars clean? Absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
Mine was pristine. Car wash. You know, I wanted to look professional. It was my car. It was my office at times. On the ride in, I had a 2-hour commute in and a 2-hour commute home. I was on the phone. I was, talking about things, discussing things, making sure that everything was going on. So it's your office. Yeah, it definitely was clean.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I agree that it was your office as well. I had my phone hooked up into the car, so you can talk wirelessly when you're
Yeah.
driving. And it's funny because one of my many GOs as an executive, one of the complaints, somebody wrote a letter because I threw him out of my unit. I know exactly who it is. He wound up getting arrested for a felony assault later on, off duty, but he dropped the log on me, dropped the letter, making all these allegations. One of the allegations was I'm sitting there, and my GO 15. For those who aren't aware, it's an official investigation by the police department, by internal affairs, or an investigative body. It's an interrogation of the member of the service. So I'm sitting there, and the tape is going, and they're asking me all these crazy questions, and it's going on and on and on, and they're literally going over every allegation. Even sometimes they would say, "Inspector, just so you know, that it's been established through arbitration that you're allowed to do that." And I'm sitting there going, "Then why the fuck are you asking me? Why are you asking? You're telling me that I'm allowed to do what you're alleging I did, but yet you're asking me like I did something wrong." But anyway, it's alleged that you had your subordinates wash your car. And I leaned in, I go, "Do you mean my department issued RMP, which is Rated Motor Patrol, which is the department issued police car?" And they go, "Yes." I go, "Yes, I did. And they got gas for me too."
Yeah, exactly.
What's the big deal? You have a car guy that takes care of your cars, and that car guy always took care of the boss's car too, right?
Yeah.
So they take care of the RMPs. They make sure they get down for their PMs and tires get done and all this other stuff. That's their job. And one of their other jobs, if you don't have a dedicated driver like, some chiefs, that person takes care of your car. That person takes your car, make sure it's gas. Yeah, you want to get gas? I always got gas myself. Local precinct, I'd pull up, I'd gas it up myself. The car wash, I'd let them take it to the car wash. But I always gassed it up myself. It just found it easier. But what silly questions? But yeah, I always kept it. I always kept it clean. Kept equipment in the back that I could possibly need. If I had to leave from home, because a lot of times you said it's your office, and the reason that we have those cars is because we may have to respond to something from home. When I got hurt in the RMP accident, I was responding from home to a double domestic homicide of 2-week-old babies. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I used to get gas all the time. And the reason I did it is because I wanted gas just in case a job came in, because if I didn't get it, on my commute, I had 2 hours, like I said. So I was already down a quarter, maybe half a tank. So I would have to get gas to make sure that I could get to the job and respond from home. Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I had to respond from home, because every time there was a barricade hostage with a weapon or something like that, we were getting the call. And if there's if there's hostages and stuff, we were driving in. Anytime, God forbid, a police officer got shot, we were rolling in, because we were we were hitting doors, right? We were going after the perpetrator. So absolutely. And be perfectly honest with you, I lit it up a few times upstate New York on the ride in, because I had to get in. So, and I didn't feel like getting pulled over by the state police, who were very, very good when they saw the rear deck lights on and knew that I was responding into a job. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. I just want to go back to this one that you answered. How many years until somebody should be considered a tax fraud? I agree with you that there should be a track. And I'm going to read it because I have it up on my other screen. In Curtis Sliwa's policy statement, under recruiting, retraining, and promoting our officers under the public safety handler, it says create separate career tracks within the NYPD to attract highly qualified candidates with guaranteed paths to the detective squad or management roles. Root out cronyism and political favoritism by restoring true merit-based promotions guided by transparent standards and leadership performance. establish defined benchmarks for promotions, including peer review, leadership evaluations, and training achievements. That makes it fair. It's as fair as it's going to get. And I remember one time we were at an all-in, and that's when they were talking about banding us pretty much as executives on our promotions and telling us, you know, if you're in tier one, they 3 tiers, right? Tier 1, you're going to get promoted. Tier 2,
Right.
you're most likely going to get promoted. Tier 3 means you need more development, right? And I remember the first deputy commissioner standing up there and explaining this and saying, and there's going to be people in tier 3 that get promoted because shit happens.
Yeah.
That's as honest and as transparent as it's ever been. You know?
No, what are you going to do? Yeah.
So, you know, again, back to common sense, back to what the guys and the girls on the street are asking for, right? So I just wanted to get back to that. And Tom is saying, you know, fastest chat ever. I can't keep up, bro.
I know.
I love it. I'm not complaining. Believe me, I'm not complaining. I appreciate everything. He's throwing a capricious at you.
Capricious. I
And
know
again-
that Juju made a comment about using yellow taxis. You remember the old street crimes used to have the yellow taxis? You know how you knew? I'm going to tell the secret now.
Yeah, because we don't use them anymore. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, they don't use them anymore. But
No,
the
no.
second letter was a Y. If you saw the Y, that was an unmarked, or it was a. And the guys from street crime were so friggin' smart. One guy would sit in the front, and 2 guys would sit in the back as passengers. You would never know. So absolutely a great
diversion.
You know, that maybe Curtis will bring that back. Who knows?
Yeah. Samara's saying inspectors are doing pay detail now. That's true. I don't agree with that one, but you know, to each his own. To each his own. And yeah, when I was doing conditions and anti-crime when I was a cop back in the 7-0 in the early 90s, you know, we had the old Caprice, and we used to throw the livery sign, the yellow livery sign, in the dashboard in the front and the back, and do the same thing because they were all dollar cars. So you didn't even have to have livery plates or TLC plates.
Yep.
And,
you could roll.
But you had to keep your doors locked because, man, people would just come up and just rip your door open.
They jump in. Yeah.
Yep. Anything? You see anything else before we go?
So the last one, maybe this could be the last one.
2.5 hours in, and we can shorten the show up a little bit.
At 1931, PB says, Chief, why is there a deputy commissioner for public safety? Isn't the police commissioner the guy for the public safety? Seems redundant. I mean, technically, right? The deputy commissioner of public safety doesn't have control over the police department.
Correct.
So it's for all the other things, but each of those other agencies, like the fire department, OEM, all have their own commissioners. So I do believe there is redundancy. I don't know why that was instituted the first time, as far as I knew. I don't know if it was ever used before Adams, made that position. I don't know if it was there before, but I really don't think
it was in the past. I don't remember what administration, but it hadn't been for a while.
Hadn't been for a while because of the redundancy. There's no need for it,
Well, there's no need for it, but I got to find a place to put my boy.
Well, that's what it was. Cronyism and nepotism, right there. So, yeah, RDV's right. So I'm pretty sure Kaz will get his fill. I'm sure he will. He'll probably get
sure, I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm sure that he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it works.
Now maybe he can buy back his time, like you said.
I'm not sure. You're on a leave, but you're working for the city. It's I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm almost caught up. You see any more?
No, I haven't seen any more. They may have been. I've been going. Chat's been on fire tonight. Appreciate everybody throwing their questions in there. I'm sorry. I myself couldn't keep up with the chat while we were interviewing Curtis. It was kind of hard. I was trying to pay attention to Ron and Curtis at the same time. So sorry if we missed anything, but really appreciate everybody's comments and appreciate the police in the chat that quell some of the disgruntled chatters, but
Yes, I was just going to say the same exact thing. We appreciate you self-policing the chat, and
Yes.
Amazing Ant for moderating for us, and
that's it.
in the chat. We appreciate you being here tonight. I'm glad that you were able to join us for the whole show. Listen, Juju, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate your input. We know that as Eric would say, opposition meets opportunity. We don't have to agree on things, but we appreciate and we don't stifle your opinions. Same with Area 2456.
Yeah, that's great.
We may not agree with your points of view and everything else, but you're free to put your chats in there as long as everybody's being respectful. I didn't see the disrespect that was supposedly given out earlier, or we would have addressed it. And we're not jealous. Come on, Juju. That's it. All right. So
I just want to say,
caught up.
Everybody, thanks again for being in the chat. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for watching us tonight. Halloween's Friday, right? Everybody be careful, especially if you're working, right? Because there's always the chance everybody's wearing masks, everything else. Definitely be careful. And the other thing is, if you're working Sunday at the marathon, also be careful, be vigilant. You remember the Boston Marathon? Beautiful day. Everybody's watching the runners, and we had 2 terrorists. So just be careful out there. Again, like Ron and I always say, keep your head on a swivel. Watch your back, watch your 6, and just be careful out there. So watch your partners too. Keep your partners in check.
Absolutely, a lot coming up. If you're working the parade, the parade's fun to watch, but that Halloween parade for those of you, if you've never worked it before, it can get out of hand. Don't think because it's a Halloween parade that things can't get dicey. So just be careful with that. All right. So tomorrow at 1:05 p.m., 13:05 p.m. for Samara on the Sal Greco show. They're going to have guest attorney is going to be John Scola, who's a civil rights attorney, and he's going to be talking about current scandals in the NYPD and several lawsuits that he has dropped. So that's a don't miss episode with Sal. Sal has corrected, for those of you who might be concerned, Sal has been able to fix his technological issues that he had yesterday, where and Marlon and Jack took the lead on the show. So we appreciate that. It's great to have a deep bench here at the Finest Unfiltered. I'm going to be off for a show. Rob's going to be off for a show in the upcoming weeks, and we'll have a special guest sitting in for us. So check out tomorrow, 13:05, Finest Unfiltered, the Sal Greco show, followed on Friday by the New York's Finest Retired and Unfiltered podcast with John, Eric, and Marlon for the roundtable. And we really appreciate it. They'll be back on Monday for their regular show. A lot of politics, obviously, because it's the last few days of the mayoral election. So I'm sure they'll be catching up on all of that. They have great guests. They're also doing special episodes. John had a special guest on yesterday, a Tuesday show that he doesn't normally have. He had a city council candidate on. He may have another show tomorrow. I'm not sure. And then you have on Monday, they'll be back for the regular show. Tuesday, Sal Greco at 13:05, followed by the 10-4 Tavern with Tom Joyce and Pete Viselli. Tom's been in the chat today. We appreciate the engagement. They're going to have Sergeant Carla Miller from the Coral Springs Police Department. She's retired. Now she's the CEO of Patriot Consulting. And this is a legacy. This is a legacy guest. Carla Miller was very, very young, and her father was a police officer who was killed in the line of duty. And then her mother became a police officer, wound up rising to the rank of chief. So it's in her blood. It's in her bloodline. Should be another great show. They have a great show. They bring on people from all over the country. And not just the NYPD. It's more of an interview format. They tell stories about their career. They talk about what's going on after the job. They have a great reach, both federal, local, police departments. Last night, they had Christian Quinn, Fairfax County, Virginia Police Department. I said it earlier. He rose the ranks all the way up to chief. He's now in the private sector. Told some great stories. Was a great storyteller. Had some great jobs that he was involved in. Some notorious, and again, they get all the guests with a lot of notorious cases. So don't miss out on that. And we'll be back next Wednesday, 5:05 p.m. Obviously, we'll be talking about whoever the new mayor is, because we'll know the results by then, and we'll be back then. So,
John, one last thing, Ron.
yeah.
Thank Lily in the chat. She reminded everybody that daylight savings time is Sunday, right? So that's a fallback, right? So you don't want to be too early to your detail if you got the marathon. And our prayers and thoughts go out to everybody in Jamaica hit by a Category 5 hurricane. My God, you saw the flooding and the devastation. And a final, you put them up. Listen, Curtis, thank you so much for being with us today. And you have our 100% support. And please, everybody, get out there and support Curtis. We need a good, fine candidate, and Curtis is the man for New York City.
All right. There you go. We'll be back at you next week. Till then, everybody be safe.
Be safe.